Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second episode of the Coffee and Takes podcast. Today I'm joined here by a great friend of mine, Mr. Matt Green. Matt, thanks for coming on the podcast. We've known each other now for how long? 7-8 years?
Yeah, 7-8 years, man.
7-8 years. It's been a long time, and you know, we've become great friends over the years. He's moved up north, left me down here in England. But every time we catch up, it's always great. And, you know, I wanted to bring Matt onto the podcast because we always have fantastic conversations on FaceTime, and we always drop some gems to each other. I learn a lot from him, and I'm sure he would say that he learns a lot from me as well. And Matt is one of those people that I have very close by my side as a great friend, because we help each other improve. You know, every time we get off a phone call, I'm always like, damn, I'm inspired to take action. I'm inspired to do more. And I believe he would also say the same as well from having conversations with me. And ultimately, we like to goof around and have a laugh as well. So hopefully you'll enjoy today's podcast, you know, just watching two friends spit some facts, share some nuggets, have a good laugh. You know, we like to call ourselves the Big Head Brigade, as two men with enormous heads, enormous skulls, Neanderthals, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's many of us around.
Well, these are thick skulls. You know what I mean? You have to search far and wide to find anything that competes. You know,
in all honesty, it's very rare that I come by a fellow man with a big head.
I think that's why there was sort of we were magnetized to each other to begin with. I saw you and I was like,
I think there was respect right there.
About this guy, and I didn't quite figure it out until a while had passed, and I was like, that's what it is.
It's just, you know, big heads just respect each other.
They do.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders. And I think the burden of carrying such a weight just makes you have nothing but respect for this individual.
Absolutely.
You know, we've coined a phrase together. We've said, never trust a man with a small head.
Yeah.
Now, there's just something about men with small heads that you just cannot trust.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you're one of those people. I just don't trust you. No, I'm just messing around with you guys. Even the small-headed brothers deserve some respect. But yeah, today we want to get into a few different topics on the podcast. We want to talk about fitness, health. You know, Matt is somebody who is absolutely incredible when it comes to running. I've seen him, you know, pick up running as a sort of a hobby, if I could put it this way, and seeing how it's become almost a lifestyle for you, you know. So I'd like it if you could share with the audience, you know, what got you into running. And, you know, before you actually get into that, you know, Matt's somebody who, you know, is a muscular individual. I would say he's a specimen of human performance, if I may say. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to running. A lot of people say, you'll lose muscle mass. You know, I want Matt to get into detail about how he got into running and some of the misconceptions that maybe he had to begin with about running, and how and what he discovered once he began running consistently. So yeah, share your journey with running.
Absolutely. And before I do that, I just want to say I appreciate you for having me on, and of course I'll jump at the opportunity to get on here, and this being only the second Coffee and Takes show, the second of the first of many that it goes on to be. And obviously I've seen your growth going from absolutely nothing when it comes to social media and what it's turned into now. And even though we might say it's a lot, it's only going to grow a lot more from here. So to be on this right now and to witness your, you know, evolution in the game, it's something to behold, really. And as you were saying, and I'm grateful for the things that you said about me, but I'm also very inspired by you, and I can't keep your name out of my mouth most of the time when I'm talking to other people. And obviously you've got a lot of people who follow you and see you as a leader and somebody who they could go to for guidance and lean on a little bit. And it's great to have, obviously, like, we spend a lot of time on FaceTime and whatever here and there, where we are helping each other out. So no doubt, and there is no surprise to why a lot of people want to follow you, and how it's now worthwhile having a podcast so that people can tune in and get involved in real conversations that are led by you as well. So that's going to help a lot of people out, and I'm glad to be here for that. I support as best I can. You know, with that being said, so when it comes, were you asking about my journey?
What got you into running and some of the misconceptions surrounding running as well?
Yeah, so really the simple the simple answer to begin with is David Goggins, right? Obviously, he's massively popular nowadays. You don't really find many people who don't know about him. And I'm sure there are so many other people who are inspired by Goggins to get out there and run. So for me, I was kind of like getting a little bit hooked on everything that he was saying. And obviously, a lot of the stuff that he was saying wasn't necessarily to do with running. It was just that he was running whilst he was saying it. And I was like, maybe there's some type of, maybe there's a reason for the running. And he kind of made it look, I'm not necessarily look cool, but the savage image that he was portraying and that you got from him, I kind of absorbed that and was like, maybe I should give that a go. Because, I'm seeing a tough guy right here. And I'm definitely kind of scared of running at this point, yeah. And I'm thinking, I should start doing things that scare me, right? And running's a very simple thing, and it's something that not a lot of people kind of really... It's becoming more popular now because of guys like Goggins and the social media world promoting it a lot more. But it's something that still a lot of people find really hard to do. Just put on them shoes and go out and do a few miles, right? So because it's that hard, I love challenges, and I've always loved challenges. So seeing that, I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put on whatever shoes I've got. And if I remember rightly, they really were not good running shoes, to say the least. But sometimes that's how you start, is you start off with it being rugged and raw, and you just jump into the mud and get active. So that's what I'd done. Now, the way that started, without going too far into depth, when it comes to, the step by step, I could really go A through to Z, but instead I'll just go like A and Z. So I initially started off with just doing like a 2 kilometer run, so just over a mile. And I remember I got, halfway through it and to the end of it, and was like, whoa, that is hard. Yeah. Now, there are a lot of people out there who can just jump right into running and get rolling quickly. I wasn't necessarily one of those people. I would say that genetically, I'm quite athletic, but I'm not built to run long distances. So as soon as I get the wheels turning and we're going over a kilometer, going over a mile, I started to find it really hard. Yeah. So from that point, because I discovered how hard it was, I decided I needed to do this. Yeah. And it wasn't until maybe 2 years later, or 2 years of inconsistency, a year and a half maybe, until I really got stuck into it and done it almost every day. So about 5 or 6 times a week I ended up morphing into. And I'd done that because I needed an escape. Yeah, I needed the therapy that came with it. And again, the long story short is it changed from being something that I found hard to being something that I learned a lot about myself by doing. You know what I mean? That and then that is what I got addicted to.
I was going to ask, actually, what made you, addicted to running on a consistent basis? Because obviously in the beginning it's awful. You're out of breath, you can hardly walk, you get a stitch. I remember actually I was out with Matt once. I think we were doing a 5K, weren't we?
I actually think that was less than 2 miles. I think it's about 2 miles, which
really?
Is about 3 kilometers, I would say.
Damn, that's embarrassing for me, because I remember I was out and Matt was like, Ali, come on man, pick it up. And I was out of breath after I don't know how many. I mean, this guy, I would say, runs relatively fast, but that's how I saw it, at least. I was like, damn, this guy's running too quick. We're supposed to do like a nice jog around the park, but I was out of breath very quickly, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I mean, there's a very popular meme of like 3 hours of bodybuilding, and it's like, yeah, you're still smiling and everything, and then like 15 minutes of cardio, and it's like Christian Bale, that meme where he's like, just basically in pain. And it's like, it's very true. I think a lot of young men train these days solely for aesthetics. How important is it to train for your cardiovascular health? Because one thing that I felt after a good run, I felt so alive. Oh yeah. And I don't get that feeling from bodybuilding. I might get a nice pump or whatever, but I feel pretty much the same after. Whereas after a good run, the blood I could feel it pumping through my neck, through the arteries in my neck, going to my brain. I feel incredible. So, is that what sort of hooked you onto it? And also, how important is it for people to incorporate some form of cardiovascular activity, whether it's running or other forms of cardiovascular activities, into their workout routine?
Yeah. So, in terms of how alive it makes you feel, I mean, that's a huge thing that a lot of people recognize. Obviously, it gets the blood pumping a lot more than weightlifting and whatever else. That is just the fact, at least for a prolonged amount of time. And there's a strange effect when it comes to cardiovascular exercise, where you would typically think that because you are exhausting yourself and you've pushed the limits, you feel like you've gone to a level where you can't really go anymore or whatever. That might be the case for the run, but afterwards you find that you've got life for the rest of the day. And I don't know whether I haven't looked too much into the science to see whether it's hormonal or chemical or anything like that, but obviously instinctively and where we came from as a species, we're not designed to really throw weights around. Yeah, we're designed to run. We're designed to outrun things. Our cardiovascular system is extremely efficient and whatever. So we might be tapping into, when the feeling that you get from it might be you tapping into into our ancestry, yeah, in terms of where we came from.
Yeah,
the lifting weights and stuff. The reason why I don't hold that in such high regard is because you're typically doing it in a very comfortable environment, yeah, and it's discomfort that we thrive in big time. So when you're in a comfortable environment and it's warm and you can decide when you finish and your car's waiting outside and you can obviously you can get a shower when you finish running as well. But I mean, like, you've literally got to walk, let's say you're in the gym, you've literally got to walk 2 minutes and you're there in the sauna or the shower, whatever type of facilities you've got. And you're good. When you're done, that's it. It's wrapped up nice and quick. Yeah. And you can spend time in there talking to people in the gym, let's say. And it makes the whole process of everything easier. Now, I'm quite against making everything easy. I like the hard way. There's that saying, of course, if you do what's hard, your life will be easy. If you do what's easy, your life will be hard. So if you stick to all of the easy things, you're not really conditioning your mind, and you're not conditioning the things that are going to help you get through tough things in your life. Now, I know people who don't really have that drive, who aren't necessarily, they don't have that killer will, that desire to like use something to smash through obstacles and break through plateaus in their life. And each to their own. But I would just say, if you're struggling to reason with why you're going to the gym and it's not invigorating enough, then it's probably just because it's too easy. Yeah. And I would encourage people to really just do what's hard. Now, some people might argue with me and say, oh, but this type of weightlifting is hard. And of course you get CrossFitters who definitely push themselves to the limit as well. I've got a lot of respect for that type of thing. But at the end of the day, you're still in a nice, cozy, warm environment where you're reducing challenge and you're reducing adversity and growth. The thing that I love about running, or obviously we could attach onto that cycling and swimming, the outdoor endurance activities, is when you're halfway, you've got to do the other half. Yeah. And I love that about it, because most of the time you will prevent yourself from quitting anyway.
You'll find reasons to stop.
Yeah.
But when you're 50 miles away, or I don't know, that's a bit extreme, but when you're 10 miles away from the starting point and you've got 10 miles to come back, you have to do it. You have to do it now. Yeah. And that's where you find out a lot more about yourself. You discover who you are when the rubber meets the road, as they say. Yeah. When you've really got to grind, that's when you find out who you are. Yeah. So my obsession and the way that I latch onto running came from
me going through phases of like, now I'm not a quitter, that's for sure, yeah, but there were certainly times where I was like, I want to quit so bad, and I realised the circumstance that I'm in whilst I'm out on this run, because it might be -3 degrees outside, and I'm running like 16 miles, let's say, and I'm halfway. I'm like, there's nothing I want to do more than quit right now.
Yeah.
But what can I do about it? Be a little bitch and call a taxi or wait for a bus or something? I just can't bring myself to do that.
Yeah.
So when your hand is forced to complete the mission, that's when you start to go, oh, I might be tougher than I thought. Yeah. And then you start chunking away, eating away at miles, right? Let's say that you've got 8 miles left, and you're like complaining for the next 2 or 3. Yeah. And then you find that you've got 6 or 5 miles left. You're like, well, now that I've only got 6 or 5 left, and I've just done 2 or 3 complaining about it.
Whilst complaining.
Whilst complaining. Why don't I just slap myself and say, stop being a little bitch and get it done?
Get it done.
And that's really what I think is important about it. Now, obviously, your question was more to do with the cardiovascular side of things, and that is the mentality side of things, which I personally think matters either equally or a little bit more, because once you've got a strengthened mind, you can then it makes you more adaptable. Yeah. But as for the cardiovascular stuff, how useful it is for everything. Let's say it is lifting weights. When you have a strong cardiovascular system, you become a lot more efficient and effective at using this liquid that's in your body that we know as blood. Yeah. And what is our blood? Our blood isn't just simply this thing that bleeds and heals a cut when we got it on our arm or anything. No, this is the super juice right here.
Yeah.
This is full of all of the nutrients and obviously the oxygen that we're going to need to fuel our muscles and complete any activity that it is that we're doing. Yeah. So the stronger your cardiovascular system is, the stronger your heart is, the more you'll find that you can get things done a lot easier than you could before once you've trained it.
So would you say it makes your body more efficient at the day-to-day tasks?
Oh, yeah.
As it is, and also when it comes to potentially recovery from a bodybuilding session, you recover a lot quicker, and you're less tired, because a lot of guys probably go to the gym, have a hardcore bodybuilding session, and I say hardcore in quotes because I used to think my training was hardcore, and I think we had a conversation once on the phone about how on a typical bodybuilding session you probably burn about 70-80 calories. And I was shocked when I had this conversation with Matt. I was like, damn, 70-80 calories, that's insane. You know, I would have expected it to be in the hundreds. Because you feel like you're exerting yourself. There's no disputing the fact that you are exerting yourself, but you're not exerting your heart, you're not exerting your lungs or anything like that. You may temporarily be out of breath after doing like 8 or 10 reps or something, but you soon recover. You give yourself a minute, as soon as you finish that, you've recovered. Whereas with running, you've got to stick with this pace, this rhythm.
This pace, this rhythm, and this intensity that is gonna require you to breathe and have your heart pumping at a certain rate for over an hour, 2 hours, whatever, depends how far you go. Some people keep it light and go for the 5Ks and the 10Ks, which you're talking like 30.
How many do you run every day?
How many miles do I run every day? I'm at about 9 miles a day, I think, on average. Now, obviously, I don't run every day, but this year, in my Strava and on my watch, I've done like 2,300 miles. So when you break that down into how many days we've had in the year, you're talking about 9 miles a day. That's
incredible. Yeah. And when you first started off, you know, in the first sort of 6 months, how many miles were you probably running on an average week, on an average day?
I reckon about 15 miles a week, 20 miles a week. And like,
so how did you build that up? How did you go from 15 a week to now doing, you know, on average about 9 a day?
Yeah, so what it works out to be is about 55, 60 miles a week is what I'm on right now. So that development, it's important to add context to this. The times where I was doing 15 to 20 miles a week, I wasn't, as much as I loved the feeling that I got from running, as I said, it wasn't until about a year and a half, 2 years later that I really committed to it, just because of what had happened and a shift in mindset that came from that. and deciding that that's what I needed to do to find out who I am. Yeah. So when I found it hard, so before sort of taking that mental diversion, let's say, in deciding that's what I need to figure out who I am and the kind of therapy behind it. Before, I found it hard and I liked the challenge, but it seemed not to be enough to really, like start racking up the miles the way that I do right now.
Yeah.
So I was inconsistent for a while, the 15, 20 miles a week and whatever. I'd do it for, let's say, a month, 6 weeks or something, then come off of it for about 2-4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks or whatever. And so maybe if I'd have found the consistency that early on, I'd be at these numbers quite a bit earlier. Yeah. But anyway, going more to more to the point of how to up the mileage, it's a case of adding a percentage of volume every week. So if you're, say, doing 20 miles a week and you're like, right, I want to take this up, I want to get to 50 miles a week or whatever. Yeah. You do about 10% extra per week. Yeah. And then on the 4th week, you do a deload, so you do less.
Why?
Right? Because I would say, this is what people say. So I actually don't really abide by it, just because I like sticking to a regular mileage. But if I'm going by what the pros out there say in terms of adding mileage, you want to give your body a chance to, obviously a deload is where you're allowing your body to recover and prepare for the next leap, let's say. Yeah, so that's the idea behind that. So if you're talking starting off at 20 miles, the next week you do 22, the next week you got to like 24 or whatever and so on. You can figure out the maths from there. And then that's how a lot of people aim to progress the weekly mileage. But with me, that wasn't how it worked. Once I get fixated on something, I'm like, how far can I go? Yeah. And then I started cranking out, instead of going from a typical trajectory of progression of, let's say, doing a 5k to doing a 10k and then doing 15k or whatever, I would just jump from doing, let's say, 5k to doing a half marathon and seeing how that feels. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it ruined me. It's not something that I would say I was able to handle really easily, but
you were willing to find out. Yeah,
I wanted to find out, and you get the bug for it as well. Yeah. And as you know, I've got an obsessive personality, and I don't just like to tiptoe around things. I don't like to dip my toe. I like to go all in, balls deep.
That's it. Yeah.
So I went in with the attitude of ignorance is bliss, let's say, and I found out for myself, as you say, fuck around and find out. Yeah. And I certainly did. And it didn't, and it certainly wasn't easy. It's not like the whole story behind it. I just found a groove and sat in rhythm for ages or anything. Like, no. What I love about running is almost every one of them is different. Yeah. You might be doing really well for 3 weeks straight, and then the next run that you're expecting to do great on, you're like, well, I've progressed to this degree, I should be able to handle this really easily. So you get out on that run, your legs are just super heavy, your body doesn't feel as efficient. Maybe it's because you haven't slept enough, maybe it's because you haven't eaten the right things, or it's a different time of day or whatever. But you learn a lot from that type of stuff. And what I'm saying is like, through my path of progression, and my experience with it, is you are gonna find out what hurts, and you're gonna find out what you're good at, and then it's those things that kind of keep you reeled in. And
100%. I think one thing about runners which I've observed is that a lot of them are in tune with their bodies. People that just go to the gym to do a few bench press reps, they don't really know what's going on with their body. Because they're not taking their body to new limits. They're not pushing the boundaries. I was guilty of this for the longest time. I would be benching the same weight for 6 months. And my body doesn't feel any different, and I leave the gym feeling the same way that I felt when I walked in. And I would say that goes across all of the exercises that I was doing. Whether I was doing leg press, squats, whatever, I felt the same. Whereas with running, it was so painful to begin with that my body was like, we're not going to do this again. And I think going back to what you were saying about sort of the mental aspect of it, you know, obviously David Goggins talks about callousing your mind. I think running does that probably better than any other form of exercise, because your whole body is moving forwards. Yeah. You're engaging every muscle.
Yeah.
And when your body cannot continue anymore and you force it to, you just reprogram yourself. It's almost like your body's like, oh shit, this motherfucker's still going. What's going on here?
Yeah. You kind of breach walls, these sort of imaginary walls, these figments of your imagination that were once there. And you know, like I'm addicted to running and whatever. And what I would say is I got to give props to, like, let's say guys like, what do they call those guys? The guys that crawl through like caves and the guys that crawl through like cavers or whatever.
Tight holes, guys that love going through tight holes.
Guys like that, and let's say climbers and whatever. I've got to give a shout out to them, because that stuff, like, is probably not even probably. Let's be real, like. You're way out of your comfort zone doing that type of stuff. I've got to give props to those guys. But in terms of, because, you know, there'll probably be some people who go, running's not that hard, and you know, I don't find it very challenging or whatever. But let's be real, the majority of people who do an endurance activity are either going to be a runner, a swimmer, a cyclist, or a mix of both, a mix of all three, if you've got triathletes and whatever. So that's not the point. Is here addressing what the majority of people do. There are savages out there who do different endurance activities and different sports that are very extreme. But to your point about the runners, I would say that there is something different about these endurance athletes, like the runners and the swimmers and the cyclists. But I only is it like literally by excluding the rest, but because I run, I associate with a lot of runners, and you just find that these guys are like, they think next level, and it's easy to relate to them. If you're wired that way, if you're wired in a way where you kind of think, like, I want to harden myself, I want to deal with adversity and challenge, a good place to go is a running club, because a lot of these cats, they want to get after it and they want to feel pain.
And what I like about it is that you have to stay at the same pace as the group. You know, you're again, I use that term, your hand is forced. There are points. Now, there are a lot of runners out there who say run your own race, and certainly there is a lot of time to do that. But if you're with a group of people and you feel a little bit outmatched, it's the best place for you to be, where you're like, you know, I'm meeting my challenger right now, my opponent, somebody who I feel like is gonna push me to the next level if I stick around them long enough. So it's easy to identify who's going to help you out on your journey as well when it comes to running. 100%. I think it does something to you as well. You know, when you see them far away in the distance and you're right at the back, it does something to you, man. It makes you feel like, damn, I'm slacking. Even though they might be so good at running that they are exceptional athletes. And so even you being half of what they are, you're a great athlete. And so it forces you to improve, like you said, you know, you have to find a way to get better because they are so good. You know, it rubs off on you.
Well, I mean, the best kind of analogy that we've seen of that, at least documented a lot, is Usain Bolt when he won. It might have been 2008 or 2012, or maybe it was a world championship or whatever. But I think it's where he set the world record where it is now, 958 or something.
Insane.
And second place also beat the world record that he had before.
Really?
That Bolt had before. So what's shown in that is if you are chasing somebody, you are forced to adapt and evolve way quicker. You know, and that I think is a really good thing to visualize, a good representation of what it means to be around people who are better than you.
Well, I think the best example of that, and it's good that it's a running example as well, is Roger Bannister.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Bannister.
RG.
RB. What did he run? He ran the 4 minute...
The 4 minute mile, sub 4 minute mile,
And at the time, people were like, oh, shit, how is a human being able to do such a thing?
And then
Bannister was like, I'm doing it.
A bunch of people crashed through that wall with him as well after he'd done it. You know what I mean?
Thousands after.
I don't know about thousands. I don't actually think it's that many. I still think it's a fairly limited amount of people, but The point is, a lot of people said it can't be done, and this motherfucker just booted the door down and said, "It's all right, guys, you can come in."
Until Mr. Bannister shows up.
Yeah, Bannister. You know, stairs have a banister. This guy kicked the banister off.
Dr. Bannister arrives.
So yeah, no, you're right. That's a good example of it as well. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Human beings are such remarkable creatures, and we don't truly understand how gifted we are to have the body that we have. And it's a damn shame to not at least try to see what you could be capable of. You know, obviously what you mentioned about throwing yourself in the deep end, balls deep, you know, I mean, that's the best way to force yourself to grow, is by throwing yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I talk about this on the channel all the time when it comes to people that want to improve their socializing skills, public speaking skills.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen me work on my public speaking over the years. You know, the first time I was public speaking, I was nervous, and you know, I couldn't look at the audience in the eyes. I was terrible. But you have to allow yourself to get good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they're like, "Ooh, now they dip their toe in the water. It's too cold. I can't. I'm out." And it's just, and it's probably the same for running as well. You know, you go running for the first time. You are in absolute pain and agony after, and then you have a choice to make at that point.
Right.
You can either tell yourself, "You know what? I'm in pain, but that's a sign that I need to improve."
Yeah.
You know, and my body, the fact that my body is struggling with such a distance means that it's not used to it. And so you just gotta throw yourself into the deep end again and again and again. And what I like to say is, it's not difficult, it's new.
Yeah.
Your body's like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" You know, like, we've never done this before. Yes.
Well, I've got a good angle for you here, right? This is what I say to a lot of people who, like, through my time of running, it's been about 2 years right now, of my dedicated, this version of me running the way that I have been, 2 years right now. So in that amount of time, people have noticed me for running, and I am not, just for the audience's sake, I'm not a professional runner. I'm not going to claim to be or anything like that, but my identity has become the runner. And there's a lot of people who come to me for advice and ask.
He doesn't give himself enough credit, by the way, guys. He's a mad runner. But carry on. Yeah,
I appreciate that. You know, there's levels to it. There's levels to it, and I'll take. I'm proud of myself, and I make it a mission to kind of be my own hero in a sense. And you do what you can, whether you're built for it or not. You do what you can. That's the thing that matters most. But point is, when it comes to people who have reached out to me and asked for help and everything, a lot of people say, "Oh, but I can't do it." And I went out for a run and it really hurt. It hurt my hip, it hurt my knee, it hurt my ankle, my feet, are the shoes right, and everything like that. All valid questions, My response to the majority of that is, remember, now let's say that somebody's 25 and they're saying this to me, "Mate, for 25 years you have mistreated your body." Or at least, let's say in your time of being mature enough to make the decisions on what you eat and what time you go to sleep and how you train and all other things under that umbrella. For the most part, the majority of people have mistreated their body. So why would you expect that when you go out for a first run, it's not going to suck and you're not going to find pains here, there and everywhere?
Yeah, what makes you, it's a bit arrogant almost, isn't it?
It is arrogant. Like, I've had so many people say to me, my knee, I'm not going to run because of my knee. And I'm like, mate, it hurts my knee as well. Now, you've asked me plenty of times whilst I've been running, what do you think about your knees and everything? Do they hurt? They don't. But there are times when they do. On the odd occasion, you'd be like, "Oh, my knee's really sore," But for the most part, they don't. It's not an injury or anything. It's just something that through repetitive strain and impact, you're obviously going to pick up pains here, there, and everywhere. But when you're first starting out, you are completely unconditioned. You are weak. Yeah. Why would you, again, to your point, the arrogance, why would you expect that you're going to be made to do this right now? You've got a whole lot of undoing to do first. So you might be carrying some extra weight. Whose fault is it that your knees hurt when you run, when you've got an extra 17 kilograms on you?
That you shouldn't have.
You shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Start thinking about getting that off first. You should, instead of saying your knees and ankles and whatever hurt, you should say, you know, oh, bloody hell, my belly's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me do something about that before I start complaining about the other ailments that I'm feeling.
Exactly.
Yes, it hurts.
Yeah.
But when you develop yourself and when you condition, you will find it a lot easier.
100%. I think a good analogy to use is probably a car. If
Yes.
you don't drive it for 6 months and then you come to turn it on one day and there's so many warning lights on the dashboard and maybe the car turns on and it drives a little bit, but you hear some knocking sounds, that's a result of you not using the car, you know? And I always talk on the channel about how in life you're either getting better or getting worse. There's no staying the same.
Exactly.
Like this whole idea that, you know, you can just maintain your physique is stupid.
No.
Because if you stop working out, if you stop exerting stress on your body will get comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, there's that famous quote, right? You know, you become fat by not working on yourself through a lack of exercise.
Exactly.
You know, nobody plans on getting fat. It's what happens when you neglect yourself.
Exactly. It's literally a representation of maltreatment.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like of not caring. That's what it is. Like if you got to call it what it is. You don't care about yourself. That's why you're turning into this. You are how you treat yourself. You know, like there's no secret to it. But unfortunately, and this is one of my gripes with humanity and society, is a lot of people just don't care for whatever reason. I just don't understand that. It's beyond me.
And I think it comes from a lack of self-respect.
It is a lack of self-respect.
You know, if you care about yourself, you do the hard things. You know, I care about myself enough to put myself in uncomfortable situations, to risk being rejected and laughed at so that I can improve. You know, when I first started a YouTube channel and I had 10 views per video, you know, a part of me was like, well, you know, who's actually going to watch me? You know, do I look stupid right now? There's probably people sharing my videos thinking, look at this goofball. But I was willing to risk getting laughed at and getting people, you know, mocking me and stuff so that I can improve and get better, you know. And it's the same thing whenever you do anything, you know. People are, oh, look at this guy, who does he think he is, man? He's out there doing this, who does he think he is, right? And I'm sure you probably have people say maybe something along those lines when it comes to your fitness and the way you train. Oh, who does he think he is? Why is he doing all this stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy. Look, let's use this, right? For whatever reason in society, people hate somebody who tries hard, which I find strange. Now we all know this saying, God loves a trier. That's what you should care about a lot more. Forget about what other people feel about the way that you're doing things, and obviously you're a representation of that, starting off at the 10 views and whatever else. And on that point, right, how did you find a lot of people were receiving, like, you see the people who are viewing your stuff, where do you even think they came from, and how do you think that it turned into a lot more?
I mean, I think the way it is, I believe that hard work is rewarded. Consistency is rewarded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everybody comes out in the beginning and says, I want to do this, I want to achieve that. And there were people that started YouTube channels around the same time as me.
Yeah.
And the reason why they no longer post is because they were focused so much on the initial results. And they weren't compelled to do the work by a strong reason. You know, I had a coaching call earlier today where I spoke to this guy about having a strong why. You know, obviously Simon Sinek has a book called Start With Why. And, you know, when you're young, and we've made this mistake, you know, in our early 20s, you know, we want to make so much money. We want the Lambo, we want the lifestyle, and we don't have a strong reason for why we're doing it.
Yeah, true.
You know, when I made that shift from, you know, wanting immediate results and the money straight away to having a good time, having, you know, creating videos that provide value. And what made me carry on was knowing that I'm doing this to help people. And once I started receiving that feedback, and look, I appreciated my first subscriber, and when I had 3 comments on my videos, I'd like every comment, I'd reply to every comment. And, you know, over time, people were like, wow, this guy's actually still posting, you know. And I still get comments right now from people that are like, Ali, one thing I respect about you is you're always posting. And look, do I have 3 million subscribers? No, but I'm very grateful for the audience that I've built. And, you know, I just want to say thank you guys. We're almost at 19,000, which is insane to say, because I still have screenshots. I screenshot all the time and my progress along the way. And I still have the screenshots of 500, 600, 700 subscribers. And it's amazing, you know. So
what's crazy about that as well is it hasn't even been long at all.
No.
And there are obviously, I pointed this out to you the other day, there are periods where it's like, damn, it went from that to that in a short space of time. And it's crazy that how obvious, how clear it is that you are rewarded for consistency. And I was literally having that thought today, funnily enough, because, you know, I'm not big on social media really, but I do post quite a lot on my story, and I definitely have this conflict in my mind where I'm like, just who cares? I mean, I get likes and stuff, and certainly there are, well, actually, before I say that, I'll say this, like I then have this, the following thought is, people just want to see consistency. Even it's kind of like watching a TV show, in a sense, where people just get addicted to watching, even if they're not interacting properly, like in the way that you want them to. There are people who are just watching and admiring, and every now and then they'll creep out of the woodwork and be like, hey mate, good job, love what you're doing, you know, keep it going, you have inspired me, or whatever. And that might be years down the line, but you know, it's those types of things that have kept me reeled into it as well, where that conflict, the winning side of that conflict is, okay, I don't really want to be doing it. I'm not a big fan of social media, I don't really want to be doing it, but there are people out there who love watching the stuff and not depend on it, but you're a source of inspiration and motivation for them. So you're kind of tied to that being the why. And I just think like that's, you're a testament to basically going, like, taking that side of things seriously. You know, everybody can say, I want to do something for my mum, and you know, talk about a whole bunch of, let's say, the obvious whys, but you have committed to doing this with the end result being, you're being detached from the end result.
That's the key right there.
You know, and that's the same with me. Like, who would have thought that I would get any type. I'm not big on social media or anything, like I say. I'm not winning events or anything like that right now. But what I will say is, not for 1 second did it cross my mind that people would recognize me for running or other types of things. That to me is kind of crazy. And like that, I just think it's mad that when you're consistent with something, it really comes back to you, and you're appreciated for it, and you become significant to people because of that.
100%. Consistency is rewarded. You know, everybody in the beginning, you know, talks a load of smack. You know, I love the definition of commitment, and we've spoken about this before. Commitment is staying true to what you said you were going to do long after the mood in which you said it has left, right? Because in the beginning, everyone's like, oh, I want to be the biggest and the baddest. And, and you know, it gets to a point now. I mean, we have conversations with guys younger than us, right? I mean, we're both approaching 30. You know, you're older than me by 1 year. But we have conversations with guys in their early 20s, late teens. And, you know, I kind of have a smile. It's not in a degrading way. But, you know, when I have a conversation with them, and you know, I see that they're so excited. What I want to see is that same level of excitement 6 months later. And not just excitement. You know, you've got to do something with the excitement. You know, you can't just be like, woo, you know. Jim Rohn used to say, motivation ain't enough. If you have an idiot and you motivate him, you have a motivated idiot. You know what I'm saying? So you need to do something with that, with that energy that you have. And it's always important to act whilst the intention is hot. You know, when you have an idea, I spoke to a guy recently who was stalling on this business idea that he's had since COVID. You know, teaching languages, and he was like, I'm in a good job, it's safe, I really want to do this. And I think what he was wanting was more so permission to get going with it. And I just told him, listen, man, you know, now's the time. You know, the best time was, you know, 3 years ago, but the second best time is right now. The time is going to go by anyways. You're going to get older. I mean, COVID, it feels like it happened almost 15 years ago. I mean, it was like a distant memory now. You know, time just keeps ticking. And I love that saying, time will either promote you or expose you. Either you will reap the rewards of your labor, or you will be exposed for your lack of effort, for your fraudulent nature. You know, because you talked a bunch of smack, and the reason why you hesitate so much when you don't take action for a sustained period of time is because that's your body telling you, I don't trust you. You know, you say something, and the reason why you can't bring yourself to do it is because you've had the intention before and you didn't act upon it. And when you don't act upon it, it's almost like you chip away at your self-esteem every time.
That's what it is.
It keeps dropping.
We've spoken about this before a lot, being a man of your word and being a man of honor, right? So almost as often as you can, when you say something, this is why your words are very careful, and what you say, what comes out of your mouth, you have to be very careful with, because the more you say something, even if you're the only person who hears it, if you're not adhering to what it is that you say that you're going to do, it's you who's got to trust yourself. Forget anybody else to begin with. It's you who's got to trust yourself. So when you're all bark no bite, and you're doing a whole lot of talking, as you say, talking smack, and you're not acting on it and striking whilst the iron's hot, the only person that's going to keep losing is you, because you're not just losing by not doing it, you're also losing credibility for yourself. You know, and
that's what it is.
That is what it is. And then you can't count on yourself to summon it up in another circumstance.
I think what it is the desire or the need for certainty. You know, Robert Greene talks about it in one of his books. I don't know if it's I think it's The Laws of Human Nature, or one of the books. I can't remember which one it was, but he talks about how the desire for certainty is what cripples us. You want a promised outcome before you begin. And it's, once again, that's almost arrogant as well, because what makes you believe that you should get the result just for trying? You know, you're supposed to fail. And I think people need to develop their relationship with failure, because it's a good feeling when you've sucked at something for ages and then it finally ticks. Maybe you make a slight adjustment in the way that you train. Maybe it's in the way that you create content, you know, whatever it is, eventually you get it and you're like, you know, and it feels victorious. That's the sweetness that you derive from that is incredible. Well,
I think, and you touched on this point about, I think you were talking to do with like the human ability, maybe you're more so talking about it physically and how clever it actually is. But, you know, like when you're doing something and you want to get better at it, what you're doing is you're forcing yourself to stay in create mode. And I'm a big, this topic of create mode is something that I'm always asking for help from above to keep me in create mode. I think like that's one of the most important places to be. And the only way that you're going to get in create mode is by starting something. You get into it and you're like, I like this, but I'm dead at it. I'm not doing very well. Okay, but then you can start to identify from the inside now rather than the outside. You're not on the outside looking in, you're inside and you're going, okay, I'm really bad at this. And then you're forcing yourself to start getting creative. And over time, and you'll have noticed this with everything that you've done through your growth on social media and the message that you're putting out there to people. In the beginning, you'd have said some stuff that you're like, oh, I could have delivered that in a better way,
in a different way,
that you eventually go on to do. And then obviously,
and people see that evolution.
Exactly. And some people see it so linear, where it kind of looks like so natural, and there is a natural element to it, but the natural element is really just to do with not forcing yourself, but like staying in create mode. If you stay in create mode, you allow yourself to mess up, which then leads to an improvement as well. Like that's really the way that it's going to go.
100%. And I think it makes you more likable as well when people see that you really sucked, and relatable as well. You know, that you were really bad in the beginning and then you became a little bit better and a little bit better. And then when they see that you're really good, then they're like, well, you know what? We saw that happen. And look, and even if you're not a content creator with an audience, you can see your own evolution. And you can look back at when you used to, I'm sure you have screenshots of some of your runs from a year ago, a year and a half ago, and you're like, damn, man, my time was shocking. But now look at me. I can do it in 5 minutes quicker.
New me killed the old me,
That's what I'm saying. I think David Goggins put it as, I was initially David, and then I became Goggins, you know? And so that's so true. You see your evolution, and I look back at some of my, my pictures from 5, 6, 7 years ago, you know, physique-wise, and everything's changed, you know, and I think we need to have this discussion as well, because there's a lot of young guys out there who are so concerned about where they are in life, and they're 21. And it's like, at 21, we also had some of those concerns, to be fair. We were like, oh man, what are we going to do? Because, me and you have something in common in the sense where we didn't go to university. We didn't really know, I don't know about you, but from what I remember, you didn't have like a clear plan of what you wanted to do in terms of higher education. We were in a similar sort of boat there. We were like, what are we going to do? And we actually both left college at a similar time as well.
Yeah.
And we just decided, you know what, let's just see where this takes us. And I think you got to embrace the uncertainty. I mean, on one side of the coin, yes, it's scary because, the unknown is always scary. And I think that's what makes horror movies scary, is the fact that you don't know when the jump scare will come and everything. And it's the same thing when it comes to life. You don't know what's going to happen. But on the other side of the coin, it could turn out bigger and better than you expected.
Yeah.
And I think you need to just be like, okay, you know what? Here we go. Let's just see what happens.
If I got the opportunity to go back to when I was that age, I would have been way up, like knowing what I know now, I'd have pushed myself to be way more bold. You know what I mean? Like that saying, don't wish for security, wish for adventure, rings true. Like that's one of the loudest sounds in my head. Don't wish for security, wish for adventure. Because a lot of people are out there looking for, like, what shall I do to ensure that I know how much money is coming in every month, know that I'm going to be warm and that I'm going to have food. These are very reasonable things to ask again, But what you'll find by putting yourself out there, and this is what I wish I would have done, is that you will just figure it out. If you take the bolder option, if you go and ask for adventure and you do something that's a bit wild, that's a bit like, people are questioning why you're doing it, especially family members and stuff like that.
We'll get into that as well.
Yeah, which is one of the, the main things that holds people back. If you go on the adventure instead and say, this is my story, you're definitely going to have some ideas in your head that you think are attributed to that adventurous side of things. And that's what I'd recommend people to do, because once you start going down that way, you will just figure it out. The humans have, and I was going to say this, humans have this super strange, like uncanny, godlike ability to just be able to pull things out the bag when you need to most. I just don't, it's so strange. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Because I certainly wasn't equipped for it. I didn't prepare for it, but somehow that good thing started to happen. A lot of people might attribute it to luck or whatever else, but that's really not how it is. It's just that you will figure it out. You are smarter than you give yourself credit for.
100%, 100%. And, what's sad is seeing young fellas in their 20s being so fearful of making a mistake. Their relationship with failure. Maybe it stems from childhood. Their mum and dad have said, hey, don't you dare do that, and so they've grown up with this subconscious fear of trying new things out. And so they look for that safe job. And obviously the danger of a good job is that it will take away all of your hunger. It will take away your sort of your quench for adventure, almost, your desire to go out there and see what you could achieve, so obviously there's that saying, good is the enemy of great.
That's what came to my head.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're in a safe job.
Finish that quote, because they need to hear that one.
Good is the enemy of great.
So bad isn't the enemy of great. Good is.
Exactly.
So like a lot of people think that they should avoid the bad. No, not necessarily. It's not the bad that you should avoid, it's the good, the thing that makes you satisfied. Your belly's a little bit full, but it could do with a lot more richness, let's say.
Well, see, this is the thing is, right? The way I see it is not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur, and I'll get your take on that as well in just a second. But, even if you just want to have a regular job, you want a consistent work routine. You want to come back at the same sort of time every single day. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
However, you are capable of a lot more than what you think you can do. And it's more so what makes life worth living is the process of trying things out. Jim Rohn used to say, set a goal to become a millionaire for what it will make of you to achieve it, right? It's the person you become in the process. The reason why, and this is going a bit deep now, the reason why a lot of guys end up becoming really depressed, and unfortunately many take their life, is because they feel like there's no meaning.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and I think men derive that meaning from the work that they do.
Yeah.
They want to do something that they feel is important. They want to feel useful, whether it's to their family, to a larger corporation.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel like they're just sat rotting away, you know, not accomplishing anything. And that's why a lot of guys hit this sort of this wall, maybe at the age of 40 or something, where they have a midlife crisis and they're like, you know what, I could have done so much more when I was 20, 30. Yeah. And here I am stuck in a cubicle at this company where I'm disrespected consistently by my employer. You know, the people around me are fake and a bunch of snakes, which a lot of people are in the corporate world.
Yeah.
And that depression starts kicking in.
Yeah.
So this is why I think it's so important when you're in your early 20s. And to be fair, we had quite a lot of those experiences where we were like, okay, what are we going to do in terms of money? You know, and we got into different lines of work. You know, I won't shy away from saying that, you know, we got into e-commerce, network marketing as well. And, you know, it's all part of the journey. You know, you get in, you learn different things. And I'm not a fan of regretting experiences, because every experience shapes you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it tells you or gives you an idea of what you want, but sometimes it gives you an idea of what you don't want.
Exactly.
And that sort of trying things out is important. So what would you say to someone who's like, man, I'm 21, I don't know what I want to do, man. Like, where do I begin?
Oh man, at the age of 21, man, like really, it's just about, if I could go back to see my 21-year-old self and give some advice, I would literally just tell that guy to have some fun. You know what I mean? And what I'm saying by that is, again, the whole adventure side of things. Because looking back at it now, I feel like I wasted a lot of good years by not necessarily being so, like by being scared into thinking, what have I got to do? And
do you think social media has negatively impacted us in that way? Because maybe 30, 40 years ago, the average 20-year-old didn't have that burden on his back, or maybe didn't have this false expectation of what or where he should be by this age. Because now on Instagram, and I see it all the time on my coaching calls, guys in their 20s, early 20s, are genuinely, seriously anxious about the fact that they haven't accomplished shit.
Yeah.
Do you think that comes from social media?
Oh man, social media, I've got a lot of bugbears to pick with it. I think it's tormenting a lot of people, especially guys, especially because for whatever reason, well, the algorithm will push it anyway for whatever reason, I don't know, but also a lot of people nowadays have become fans rather than kind of like followers. If you're following somebody, I would expect that you're following somebody to maybe get a little bit of wisdom from this person or whatever. But a lot of people are fans and they're just kind of watching somebody else, right? And I think that's where social media is so crippling, because you're following people, let's say, who are super successful, who have really nice cars and whatever, and a lot of people can't detach. And I've had struggles with this before, and I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
Can't detach from understanding that this person has what they've got because of a set of very exceptional circumstances the majority of the time, right? And because you can't detach from that, you're questioning, why not me, right? And when you, in comparison is the thief of joy. So when you start asking things like that, you're on a slippery slope. Yeah. Because now you're kind of inviting in all these different negative emotions that turn into much bigger words and labels, such as anxiety and depression, right?
I've got a hot question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of guys misdiagnose themselves with depression?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, it's gonna... There may well be a clinical diagnosis of depression, but I just can't see how that's useful. Yeah. All I understand, and again, this could come from a place of ignorance to a degree, but I'm happy with that anyway. It's just bad feelings. It's sadness. You're not. Why are you so entitled to the point where you think that you should be excluded from feeling bad about things for a prolonged amount of time as well. Me and you have both been there, and certainly with because we've had a lot of conversations to do this, and actually to the audience right now, I'll say that Ali, and hopefully he says the same about me, he was a big reason for me keeping it pushing and getting out of a bad situation. So certainly I've been in some pits of despair and some harsh times, but I don't think once I said I was depressed. Now you might be listening to that right now thinking, but it's different for you or whatever. What if it's not? What if I have the exact same feeling, but I refuse to label myself that? Because as soon as you kind of attach this label to yourself, you now are almost consumed by it, certainly.
And you become a victim, don't you?
You become a victim of it. So I'm not a big fan. I know that there are other people out there who say this type of stuff as well, but this is my thoughts as well. Yeah, and people listening might well know who that type of information comes from, but I refuse to believe anything different.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you.
I would rather be ignorant to it and keep that out of my vocabulary, and keep this sort of keep the doom of that comes with the burden of calling yourself that away from me. And I certainly think everybody could do that if they, other than maybe they're clinically diagnosed, but even then, you're opening a can of worms when I say this, because I'm opening a can of worms when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway as a hot take. We're on coffee and takes right now. Coffee's hot and it's a take. But dare I say that even doctors are just people. And there are plenty of people in this world who just do something to make money. And just because somebody has a qualification or a certain, board membership to be able to say something doesn't necessarily mean that it's right, because everybody's so individualized, and a lot of people have a job that they just don't care about. They're just there to make money. And some people are forced into the world into the career of becoming something such as a doctor, and they're like, well, I'm here now, I've got to do it anyway. Protocol. I'm just following protocol. This is what it says in the book.
That's what I have to give you. And
I've got to say, like, I just think, why would you just believe that because somebody has a title that they're definitely right about something? Yeah, maybe by the book, that if that's what they've got under it, sure. But if you came to me with that same book, I'd probably just say, well, it's sad.
I think we're missing the old-fashioned be a man kind of thing. And I know this also is controversial as well. I mean, touching on what you mentioned about, depression, I think in certain cases, people can be diagnosed with clinical depression. People that have gone through severe trauma. Maybe they saw something horrific. Maybe they were involved in a car accident that killed 4 people, and that they can't seem to process what's happened, and so they need some therapy. I can fully understand that. Even mothers, after they give birth, some of them go through severe trauma as well, and I'm fully with that. Now, if we're talking about the average 21-year-old in the West, for example, who lives in relative comfort, has electricity, has a warm place to sleep in every single day, food, everything that you could think of, even luxury such as a smartphone, the latest iPhone. You telling yourself that you're depressed is you confining yourself in a small box. And as I said, you're basically a victim at this stage. And when you're a victim, you eliminate, any possible solutions.
You start like barricading all the escape routes, basically.
And it's self-inflicted. You are basically deciding, when you decide to become a victim, you are deciding that there is nothing for me to do. I cannot do it. I'm helpless.
I'm bound by that label now. Yeah, definitely.
And that's the thing. And when you really accept it, you stay down. But when you're like, no, I refuse to label myself as depressed, because in doing so, I'm taking the easy way out. Am I supposed to feel good all the time? Hell no. And I think you guys need to be comfortable with that. I have bad days, you have bad days, right? Once again, it's almost naive to believe that you're supposed to feel happy all the time. I've said this in videos before. Happiness is a visitor. You know people that say, I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
That's a bad goal to set.
Yeah.
Because life is chaotic in nature. And Murphy's Law, Dr. Murphy's Law states that the worst possible outcome will occur usually at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
You're broke, you need money, your car breaks down. And now you're like, what am I going to do?
Happened, yeah.
What am I going to do there?
Yeah.
And so life will test you. And so you expecting that conditions will remain calm is naive. Nature isn't calm. No one can, as a matter of certainty, say that there will never be a flood in this region, or that there will never be another hurricane to hit the US ever again.
No.
Nature, just when you least expect it, a hurricane
Bang.
Comes out of the equation.
Yeah. Well, it's very erratic. Life is erratic, and you have to accept that. And I think when you do, you kind of, a massive weight comes off your shoulders, because you're almost accepting the fact that bad things are going to happen. And when a bad thing comes, you're like, there you are. I was waiting for you. I knew you were going to get me out of somewhere. And we could probably say that depression and these labels are really a culmination of like a bunch of bad things happening at once, and it's all seemingly insurmountable. And you think, why have I been dealt this hand? And I don't know if I can ever do anything about it, so I'm just going to curl up into a ball and pray that life stops beating me. And trust me, I felt like getting in that corner as well and curled up into a ball and doing it. But for whatever reason, I was just driven not to, in the sense of like, if the wiring, and I was going to talk about wiring as well, but the wiring that we have is survival. Right. And a form of survival nowadays is different to what it used to be. But I would say that the labeling is completely unhelpful.
It's destructive.
It is completely unhelpful, because when you think about where we came from as a species, nobody had time to be depressed about anything. You had to worry about putting
saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah, for real. Like there's so much truth to that I believe now we're so privileged, and this is where a lot of my perceptions come from nowadays. Is I believe we're so privileged and choose not to do anything, that we use our create. A lot of people use that create mode that I was talking about to create, weird ways of thinking about why this is hard and whatever else. When in reality, years and years ago, like we could go back even 50 years, but let's say
you have the luxury of coming up with excuses and reasons. And like, you are your own worst enemy in that sense, because you can sever all kind of goodness in your life by thinking about all the bad stuff that's going on. But it really, dare I say, it is a choice. Yeah. And I agree with you on that. I think in most cases, you're silly. You're silly to diagnose yourself with depression. You're going through a rough patch. And this is where we're going to talk about the solution now. Because some of you are going to be like, well, Ali, well, Matt, what's the solution to this?
Yeah.
Have good friends that you can reach out to when, you're going through tough times. Matt mentioned that I've been there for him. I would also say the same. He's been there for me. We've had long conversations, and that's what you need in life. Good friends who, when you come to them with something that's pressuring you, they're there to listen. They're not there to make you feel, any worse, or to degrade you in any way, or to talk down to you. Because look, there are some bad people out there that don't want to hear your problems and won't be there for you. I think I once heard Jordan Peterson mentioned that a good friend is somebody that celebrates with you when you have something positive to share with them, and also is there for you as sort of almost like a shoulder to lean on when you're going through tough times. And so you need strong masculine role models in your life, whether it's friends, whether it's an uncle that you can call. Reach out to people, man. Don't bottle it in. You're not a beta male if you talk about how you feel. We've gone through issues in the past, several issues, financial issues, relationship issues, and we've spoken about them, and whenever we speak about some of the issues that we go through, we are also searching for ways to improve whilst we are speaking to each other. It's not just complaining. Sometimes you need to get it out your system. You've gone through a heartbreak, man. You just want to let it all out. You want to cry and shit. And that's perfectly normal, by the way. You're not a robot. You have emotions running through you. what I would say is that there is an element to masculinity of being stoic, you know, and not making life's daily trivial problems weigh you down and cause you to crumble.
Yeah.
However, there are moments in your life, and there will be a few of them in a life of 60, 70, 80 years, where you will go through severe trauma. You know, you lose parents, maybe a loved one, you go bankrupt. I mean, there are going to be moments that will cause you to, you know, to crumble. And this is where it's very important to have a good support system in place, good people around you that can pick you up and be like, hey man, I'm here for you. If you want to take some time, you know, to process everything, feel free to do so. But if you want to speak to me, I'm here for you. You know, that's what we need more of. And I think a lot of guys sadly end up taking their lives because they feel like no one cares.
Yeah.
But I want to say here that people do care about you, and sometimes they don't say it enough, and maybe guys don't say it to each other enough. But there are people in your life that will be glad to hear what you're going through. And not glad as in, you know, they're going to celebrate your demise and your problems, but as in, you know, they'll be glad that you reached out, because they'll feel good in the fact that you see them as somebody that can offer help, you know. And so if you don't have a support system in place, you know, develop those friendships, which, you know, often takes time to develop. But also I would say that sometimes there's people that you meet, you know, and then when within 3 or 4 months, they're a much better person, a much better friend to have around than someone you've known for 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
So don't feel like, well, I've got to meet somebody and then be with them for a while for them to become a good friend. It's like, no, good people are good straight away. Bad people are bad straight away.
That's true.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. What I would say actually is bad people can disguise themselves as good for a while. Good people are usually quite easy to separate from the fakers, let's say, yeah. But bad people can disguise.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah,
I would say
there's a lot of people out there that will, and I've said this before as well. You know, when I've spoken about potentially your desire to start a business, you may go to your friends, which is something that we all do. I think it's approval-seeking behavior to go to all of your friends and tell them what you want to do. You want to feel good. And I think it gives us a false sense of achievement when we tell our friends of what we want to do. And look, there's nothing wrong with being excited about something, but sometimes you go to people too soon and you start telling them about what you want to do. And some people will disguise their cynicism as advice.
Yes, definitely.
You know, maybe they are insecure about their ability to go out there and make things happen. And when they see you come in with this courage and this confidence, it rubs them off the wrong way. Yeah. And that's when you'll hear things like, well, I wouldn't do that if I was just a bit risky. You know, I know somebody that my friend's dad's cousin, he did it, you know, 5 years ago, and he, you know, he failed at it. And it's like, well, hang on a second, I'm not him.
Well, do you know where I'd go with that is, this is figuring yourself out so that you know that you can count on you before you start asking, not before you start asking, but like before you start considering what other people are saying. You know, like I found myself kind of dependent on other people, and as Ali was saying, kind of seeking permission or whatever, or that kind of validation that you get from speaking about it to begin with. I have found myself doing that plenty of times in the past, but that's almost because I didn't trust myself enough. Yeah. But when I discovered who I was and knew that I could count on myself for a bunch of things, that gave me the confidence that I could go out there, and even if it is somebody that I wasn't necessarily too sure of, let's say, and I wasn't, you know, giving away the whole plot that I was about to do or anything, but I would explain to them what it is that I want to do, and then they start kind of hating, or, you know, what I interpret now as hating, whereas when I was younger, I probably would have just been like, oh, he's trying to give me advice, but he's actually hating, because I know who I am and I know what I can do. I've almost cemented in my head what it is that I'm going to do anyway. So I could just be like, all right, mate, thanks for your opinion and whatever, and just keep it pushing. You know? And then that way you kind of, because you trust yourself to begin with in that sense anyway, it's easier to be a man of, to have the courage of your convictions, but then it also becomes clearer who's out to get you and who's kind of like trying to make it more difficult for this decision that you're trying to make.
Oh yeah, and I think you got to trust your gut as well. You know, sometimes you're around people and you just don't feel comfortable. You know, and I've spoken about this in videos where I share some advice on how to, you know, build a sort of social circle, you know, talking about some of my experiences. There are people that I've had around me that I just didn't feel good with. And I don't know how to explain it, but there was something in me telling me, I don't think this is your tribe. I don't think these are your people.
No, yeah.
And I don't mean they weren't brown like me, but there was just something that wasn't there, you know. And I'm very selective now, especially at this age, 28, of who I have around me, because I understand that, you know, there are people that will rub off on you the wrong way if you allow them to. Yeah. And so, you know, and it's the same for you, I'm sure. You know, our social circle is something that we're very careful with. And one thing I've sort of come to understand over the years is that a smaller, higher quality circle is better for you than having lots of people around you, of who many are probably plotting against you. If we're being honest. I mean, there are people out there that want to see you fail, and some will go out of their way to make sure you fail, which is insane, you know. And so the way you know, I mean, this is a question I have for you. How do you know someone's a good friend from your perspective?
That's a good question, because there are so many qualities that somebody, so let's say that you've got a whole list of qualities and boxes that you can tick about people. Let's say there's 100 good qualities, right? Somebody might tick only 3 or 4 of them, but they're just excellent at it. Yeah, it's more about them not ticking the bad boxes. That's what I think it is. Yeah, because obviously you can find friends who are helpful when it comes to you being in a situation where you really need something, and people are generous and will go out of their way to help you and everything like that, and that's quite obvious. And there are also there are genuinely good people who don't have like the most obvious good qualities, in the sense of like you might just love talking to this person or whatever, but they don't do you wrong. That's what's more important, is are they going to do you wrong? Are they deceitful? Do you find that it's more about that gut instinct that you're talking about. I don't think your gut instinct talks to you very much when it comes to the good qualities. To the good ones. It's more to the bad. It's almost like a warning, like an alert. Because what I found with my whole friendship circle, right, is that there are people in there who can piss me off about X, Y, and Z, and none of it is deceitful, none of it is actually harmful, but it just might not be that they said that they were going to do something. To them, it might have been quite light-hearted and whatever, but to me, I got let down. And I can get over it if I know that this person is so good for this, and this. And I'm like, well, I can still love this person, knowing that, like, you know, they're not perfect. And I used to be quite highly strung about that, and I used to be quite unfair. Like, even to the point where I said, if somebody smokes, I don't want to go anywhere near them. Now, me being a very healthy person and being, you know, like dedicated to my health and fitness, that was the sort of angle that I was coming from. I don't want to be around other people who smoke. They might have bad, you know, they might have a lack of discipline, let's say. And that type of thing matters to me. But then, you know, I have hung around people who smoke, and I'm like, actually, this guy is great, even though that is the case. So you almost sort of mature the things that you look for in people and get over silly little things that don't matter so much. So
that's a really good point.
You know, and the reason why I say that is because I might not be the worst for it, but there were points where I literally would just cut people off because of certain small things that really weren't about their character. It was just about like the way that they do things in their own life that just affects them. And then I found that was unfair.
100%. I agree with you. I think unfair is the right word to use.
It is unfair.
You expect someone to be perfect in every way. Healthy, makes loads of money, supports you in your business, and supports you whenever you have a breakup and you need someone to talk to. And no human can be that for you.
No.
You know, it's naive to expect that there's someone out there that will. I mean, the way I see it is there are people that share more with, like, imagine there were 3 ovals. And you know that crossover section?
The Venn diagram.
Exactly, the Venn diagram, There are people that will share more. Like, the reason why I see Matt as a great friend is because we share quite a lot in common. You know, we both have the desire to do well financially, and we always talk about, you know, what's going on around the world in terms of, you know, crypto, in terms of, you know, the foreign exchange industry, and just different business ideas. We also have great conversations when it comes to fitness, running, you know, sleeping, which we'll touch on later as well. You know, and so me and Matt, we share quite a lot in common. We watch similar podcasts. We, you know, have long conversations for hours on end. But then there are people that are also good friends of mine that I only see once every 3 months.
Yeah.
But when I see them, I have a great time with them, and you know, and like you said, they don't make me feel uncomfortable in any way.
Yeah.
And look, there are people that make you uncomfortable because they want you to grow.
Yeah.
However, the kind of uncomfortable that we're talking about is maybe they're, you know, very cynical, you know, very negative. They talk down to you.
Yeah.
You know, disrespectful. That's another thing as well.
Yeah.
You've communicated your boundaries. They still carry on being
Right.
That's different.
Right.
That kind of discomfort comes from this person not being a good person to have around you overall. They may have good traits, but they don't treat you well.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, you kind of, if we're talking to a lot of younger guys here, right, we might be talking here, we're specifically sort of talking about like you choosing to hang around people just because they know people and they can get you into clubs and they know girls and you can hang around girls and whatever else. Yeah. What else? Like, I don't know, they've just got some people are just friends with somebody because they can hook you up with whatever. Yeah. Now, in a sense, that's a faulty dynamic anyway, because it's almost too selfish on your part. So in a way, you're kind of bad as well. But this person that you're trying to be friends with might obviously be a bad person, but you're bypassing what your gut instinct is telling you because they can hook you up with things or whatever, right? And that's where I think a lot of younger guys end up in the wrong circles and and end up feeling like something's missing because they can't talk to people about certain things, and well, now it's obvious because you're choosing people for the wrong reasons. Now, exactly. I'm not even the best to really think about all the other bad things that people could be leading you into, because I've actually done a pretty good job at staying away from a lot of the negative temptations that people have when it comes to being a young guy and whatever else. Yeah. So there are people who can speak on that better, but I'm sure you understand my point. You'll end up feeling empty if you don't have people who are, let's say, able to push you and in a comfortable way, not in a constructive way. Yeah, in a constructive way, because it's not necessarily what I was about to say is it's not necessarily comfort as in like, come on mate, you can do it or whatever, but like understanding who you are and what type of push it is that you need. And you know, I've learned from people before, you should really be around a bunch of guys who are pushing really hard to be successful and stuff as well. And what I'm finding about my life and who I'm naturally in tune with are people who, I mean, a bunch of people are doing better than me, which I like to see, but are just aggressive. They're pursuing something. And that's really what it's about, is finding people who are going to push you like that. Yeah, 100%. Rather than getting you into ruts, causing you to make bad decisions. And maybe a good point to mention here is what type of things are bad decisions, really. You know what I mean? Have you got any that come to your mind? Because I'm thinking like people who will put you in danger. You know what I mean? People who will put you in danger. People who it does become quite a niche topic because of the sort of context that's required. But if you're talking about like putting your money into things, so we have quite traditional values in terms of, let's say, the importance of our family and the importance of our friends. Doing right by people like that. Now, some people out there will make it hard for you to do the right thing when it comes to things like that. And
those are the people that truly do not care about you. Yeah. Because if they bring you into an environment that could put you in danger, and the way I would sort of describe it is, if you're around people that are doing things that are immoral, illegal, and unethical.
Yeah.
Those are people that you should stay far away from, because they might make you feel good about yourself. You might have come from a home where maybe you don't have older brothers, maybe your parents were really mean to you growing up, and so you might be around these guys that you feel are making you feel better about yourself, but they're dragging you into an environment that could put you in danger, that could throw you in prison, that could cause you to get killed. I mean, London is a good example of that. There are young guys, 16, 17, being arrested with knives this big. You know, and these are people that you look at. I saw a video that broke my heart recently of this young kid in London, I think South London, who was arrested by police, and they pulled a knife that he had in his trousers. They pulled it out, and it was like this big, and the kid was like trembling. You could see that he didn't expect to be caught with it. And now his whole life is flashing in front of his eyes, and he's thinking, what have I done? You know, and I can guarantee there were probably people around him that were like, oh yeah, man, look at you, bro, you're sick, man, you're a dude, who's going to mess with you? And that kid felt euphoric. He felt like he could take on the world, and like, who's going to mess with me?
This is the way.
Exactly. So, like, I'm the real deal. These guys are making me feel good about myself. But those are the most two-faced, predatory individuals, because I can guarantee if a situation was to go down, these are the kind of people that would run away first, that would leave you to handle it yourself.
You see people like that, right? What they've disguised really well is how insecure they are. Yeah, people who lure people into doing stuff, very insecure, because what they find self-validation in is getting somebody to do what they do. Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is the worst person to have around you, is somebody who...
It's predatory.
It is predatory.
It's taking somebody who, you know, maybe can't cope with the stress as well as you can, and throwing them in a situation where you can take advantage of them, because maybe they're supplying you with certain things, whether it's drugs or whatever, and you're benefiting, and you might be the one who has positioned himself away from the danger, and you've put in this kid in front of the danger.
How much do you... Obviously, you're here broadcasting to a lot of people right now, big on TikTok and doing very well on all social media platforms, really. How does it make you... Because this ties into it. How does it make you feel being able to lead people, right? The significance of that, because obviously that's what these guys are doing. Yeah, they get a kick out of it. So, but now this is what I will say. It's a lot harder to do the right thing than it is to do the wrong thing. Yeah. So there are people who can easily get like a little kick of validation and whatever by convincing somebody to do something bad, because it's easy to do bad things. There's so much temptation around bad things. A lot of people who are watching this right now, who obviously, you know, respect and admire Ali anyway, what I will say is there's more credit that's due for somebody who... more credit that is owed to him for being somebody that is so committed to doing something that's good. Because if you remember, and all of us will know this type of person, in school there would be a kid in school who was the naughty kid, and for whatever reason it was made so much easier for them to get, you know, praise and everything like that, even though they were doing bad things. So and it kind of goes, the good people kind of go unnoticed. The good people, it takes a lot for somebody who's good to shine more. Maybe it's because most people aren't inherently bad, and there are technically a lot of good people, so for you to shine you have to be kind of like really stuck in there and doing it for a long time, and until people start to recognize you and praise you. And you only are going to reach that sort of level by going through the times where, and it could be a prolonged amount of time, where nobody does recognize you. But that's why a lot of people, I guess, would then resort to doing things that are bad, because it's easy to get recognition. A lot of people obviously seeking that validation and recognition, but obviously going back to my question is like how good it makes you feel to be able to inspire and lead people. Obviously that's where it comes. So maybe you can tie that in.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I think the way I see it is, when you take shortcuts, you get cut short. And this is actually a lyric from a very famous UK rapper called Akala. And, you know, what I aim to do with the content that I create is help people live a fulfilling life that may not be as exciting initially, but you can look back at the life that you led and feel proud of the man that you've become and the family that you've created. And I don't know which film it was. Robert De Niro was in it, and there was that young kid, his son, in the film. I don't know if it was Goodfellas or I can't remember, but I think he was.
Is it definitely Robert De Niro?
Yeah, Robert De Niro, because he slapped his son for taking money from a bunch of gangsters. And he said,
that's Goodfellas.
"What are you doing here?" He says, "A real man, like a real gangster, is the person that wakes up every..." I don't know if he said real. No, it was Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro.
I ain't really...
And someone in the comments will mention this.
Someone will get us on that. My bad. I know that's a legacy film, and I do well to get
Let's cut the podcast right here.
But yeah, go on.
Yeah, but he was saying basically something along the lines of, a real man is somebody that wakes up every single day really early in the morning and works hard for his family. Not somebody who harms other people in the pursuit of temporary pleasure, because that's what it is. It's temporary pleasure. It's fleeting. You get rewarded in the moment, but then in the long run, I mean, no one can say that a life of crime is rewarding. Even people that were involved in a life of crime, who have come out of that life. On podcasts, I've seen plenty of them where they talk about how damaging it was to their family. Some of them tear up and they cry, and when they reminisce the trauma it caused their mother, it caused their siblings. Maybe one of their siblings got killed as a result of them being involved in that life. And so they brought someone who was innocent into this life, because it's never going to end well. And so obviously with the content, what I aim to do is tell fellas that, hey, listen, what's really rewarding is building something that stands the test of time. You as a man are going to develop. You as a man are going to change over time. And the process of you changing, the process of you developing is what's going to bring you that sweetness. And you want to make sure that, you positively impact those that are around you. And I think that's the most rewarding thing with what I do, is the fact that I hear people, I get comments every single day and emails and, people telling me how there was a specific video that they watched when they were really down and they were contemplating maybe doing something wrong to get out of that situation. But they saw a video of mine that prompted them to stay on track, to keep going. And that's what's really rewarding from it, man.
There was something I was going to say about that.
Yeah. So, what's temporary, these temporary pleasures, they're not going to be worthwhile in the long run. They won't. They're fleeting. And so you want to make sure that you build something that you can look at and be proud of.
Do you know what came to my mind as you were saying about the film part, like that kind of thing, yeah? What comes to my mind is that we've been, this isn't by social media what I'm about to say, but we are being misled and led to kind of think that life should be a certain way. You were talking about the commitment and the consistency, and those are two adjectives about life that you almost attribute boredom with. Like if it's consistent and if you're committing and consistent, it sounds like they're not sexy words, are they?
Do the same thing again.
That
kind of
that's
thing.
why people say they have that adage, same shit different day. Well, I mean, I don't like saying things like that, because it almost means you're not up to anything. But
that's such a good point.
What I was going to say about it, though, which I think is an even better point, is we've been misled by watching films. Films are, let's say, an hour and a half, 2 hours long, sometimes more, We're watching sometimes a full life happen in 2 or 3 hours. And it's flash bang, crazy stuff going on all the time. And then we look at our lives and start thinking, oh, this is mundane, this is boring, because I don't have any pizzazz or like grandioseness going on in my life. I don't think that I'm anything like this guy, but I'd love to be like this guy or whatever. And so we're sort of misled by all of the things that we watch in thinking that it should be all crazy and whatever.
Wild.
Now, if I merge the two of my points together about the film, and not aiming for a life like that, but instead aiming for that commitment and consistency, those are the things that you should seek, because then what you're gonna find out a lot about yourself. Again, we've spoken about it already, but that sort of being a man of your word, a man of honor, and you end up finding that when you can just keep it moving, keep it pushing or whatever, even in the darkest days when it's the hardest, you'll find yourself ending up kind of loving who you are and feeling so capable, and a lot of better things actually start to happen from that. That's where the kind of I would say the fun starts to unravel, or becomes easier to find when you are just committed and consistent to what it is that you set out to do. And there are going to be times where obviously it is just that ugly word, consistent, but and you're like, why am I doing this? But over time it just it ends up manifesting into something else. Like, this is
such a good point.
This is the compound effect, really.
Yeah.
Everything that you do that, again, it might not be sexy, but let's say when it comes to me and running, I'm out there doing these runs, even though plenty of time, I would say, well, there's the law of thirds, right? A third of the time it's going to be good, a third of the time it's going to be all right, a third of the time it's going to be bad. Yeah. So let's say 2/3 of the time I'm not really going to be on it. Yeah. But I'm committed to it anyway. And that's the same with obviously what you're doing. There'll be plenty. I imagine you could literally, if you were to condense it all and watch everything, you'd be like, I really wasn't feeling it 2/3. I wasn't like feeling good 2/3 of the time, but I still
100%.
Anyway.
I mean, I'm a human being who has days where he doesn't feel like himself. I feel down and deflated. And, if you look at my channel, there's probably about 700 videos now. And I was probably posting about 1 or 2 videos every day or every other day, and right now the schedule is basically daily, so that's pretty much a video a day over the last 2 years. And you can guarantee that there were days that I was like, oh man, I can't be asked. And I've spoken about this before, but I did it anyways.
People just aren't cool of the idea of being Mr. Consistency like that, are they? Mr. Consistency isn't mad sexy in that sense, yeah? Obviously, that's not necessarily the way that you look or how you dress or anything. Obviously, you're one of the suavest cats out there in the streets.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, fellow.
Of course,
fellow good man.
we all know that. It goes without saying. But it's more like, Mr. Consistency, he doesn't get the same props as this guy who's like mad flashy and whatever else, and has like this business that popped up real quick and everything like that. But I tell you what, things that are built quick tend to fall quite quickly as well.
Easy come, easy go.
Easy come, easy go, exactly.
And I think what we truly admire is longevity.
Yeah.
You're a massive NBA fan, and
Bron.
your favorite NBA player is LeBron James.
Yeah.
And my favorite football player is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And both of these incredible athletes share the same thing, longevity. Ronaldo's matching Haaland's record at the age of, he's turning 39 very soon, I believe. That's a freak of nature right there. And LeBron, isn't his son almost? Does his son play in the league?
No, his
almost
son
in the league.
Let's say a year or 2 maximum away.
So
from
there's a
being
possibility
potentially in the
that
league. Yeah.
they'll both play in the league together.
Yeah.
So that's insane longevity. That's over 2 decades of consistency. And Kobe, God bless his soul, was always talking about the importance of showing up.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most profound things he's ever said, which have stuck with me, is how far ahead you'll be over time if you show up daily. The whole thing of like, if one NBA player trains once a day, in a week, that's 7 sessions.
Well, what he said, if I remember rightly, was he shows up at the gym at like 4 a.m. Everybody else shows up at 7. Basically, 8 days later, if he's doing that 8 days straight, he's a whole day ahead. Now, obviously,
over years,
when you do that over years, you are light years ahead.
You're impossible to catch.
And that brings me to a point that I was going to say earlier on. Remember I said this a long time ago. Yeah. There should be no surprise to your success. Yeah. And this is an important message for everybody right now that I would lean on a lot. If you're in anything that you're pursuing, you should really aim for there not to be a surprise. Some people love the idea of surprising people and just like one day showing up in a Lamborghini, one day showing up in a Bentley or whatever, right? And like, well, you doubted me or whatever, but that's not realistic. It happens for some people, like a very small minority of people, but you're talking about a small minority of people that are already part of the minority anyway.
Exactly.
Now, there are a lot of people out there, this is an important message for a lot of people out there to go for that sort of approach of consistency and allow there not to be any surprise about your success, to the point where people kind of get bored of asking you how well you're doing. Oh, you're still doing that
you're
thing.
Still winning? Still collecting splendacious W's.
Still collecting big dubs.
I need a spoon. I was going to be like, ding, ding, ding. It appears that one of our men, in fact, let me do this, man. I want this to be a memorable moment in the podcast. Hang on a second. Well, it goes along the lines of this, right? Hang on. Gentlemen, if I may, a few words, if I may. It appears that one of our men has recently acquired a splendacious W.
Exactly.
Therefore, a congratulation is in order.
Great. Exactly. You know, and that's the that's really the tone that I like to set, is there being no surprise.
Yeah.
Trust me, and I'm not even successful, so there's not even like a trust me thing, as in
well, you have plenty of things that you can look at and be like, well, it's worked there.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I mean. Like, people, I'm actually annoyed by this, and I feel like you might have the same position. I don't have anyone who doubts me. Yeah. And I used to have a lot, but
you miss it.
I miss it. Yeah, I miss it because it's now predictable, and I'm almost, I am annoyed by that, because there's a part of me that's like, no. I'm saying I'm going to do this bit. Do you not realize how big it is, the thing that I'm saying that I'm going to do?
Yeah.
Do you not realize how big that is?
Yeah.
No, yeah, but I know you can do it.
Yeah, I know,
I'm like, oh, that's annoying, man, because that
doubt me.
Yeah, like, this is really hard. I'm going to be in a lot of pain from this. Yeah. And because there's so much belief in the fact that I'm going to be able to do it, I don't even get that. But that's, again, because you were sort of going down that way, there isn't a surprise to it.
Shouldn't be a surprise.
I can't be mad about that. I shouldn't be mad about it. Of course, I like the idea of just for shock value. Yeah, shock value is an important thing, I guess, to people when it comes to recognition. So for the shock value, it would be nice if people are like, nah, there's no way you can do that. And me like, oh yeah, watch.
Exactly.
But I don't get that, because people are like, yeah, I know
you've silenced them.
Yeah,
you've silenced your doubters. I mean, they have nothing to look at and be like, well, you didn't do this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. That's what winning does.
Yeah.
You know, Eric Thomas used to put it this way. He said, winners win and losers lose.
Yeah.
You know, when you just keep winning, I mean, you leave people speechless. How does he keep doing it?
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, the reason they become silenced is because they know they have zero effect on you.
Yeah.
In the beginning, the reason why some of these doubters thrive when they hurl cynicism towards people is because they know that most people are going to be affected by it and probably quit.
Yeah.
That's why they love it, because they know that their words have power on this person. You know, if someone knows that they can get you to do whatever they want, you know, their words can destroy you to the core. They love that feeling. And I've spoken about this on the channel. It's insecurity. People that, haters, let's just say, right? Having anger towards everyone reaching success is what it stands for, right? Haters, are very insecure. They're insecure because when they see you courageously pursuing your goals, it reminds them of a time where they said they were going to do something and they didn't do it. True. And that makes them embarrassed. That makes them experience feelings of humiliation and regret. And so the only way for them to feel comfortable again is for them to drag somebody on his way up down. Don't leave me here. Stay here. That's why a lot of people will talk about how the friends that they had in their neighborhood growing up, when they started to do well, they started talking to them differently. It's like the whole adage of, when you thrive in the hood, everyone wants to bring you down almost, So some rappers will talk about having to leave the hood after you do well, because there are people that are plotting against you, that didn't make something of themselves. And so, that's the thing. And that's why it's very important for you to feed off that energy. That energy is one of the most beautiful things. Who was it? C.T. Fletcher. He said, the greatest motivational speech is when you say I can't do it. Have you seen that video? He says,
no, but that's wicked.
Doubt me. I think, what does he say? He says, something along the lines of, I want you to doubt me. The doctor told him he can never walk again. He said, no, doctor. Something along those lines. And
no, doctor.
Imagine this. And he had open heart surgery a few times. And there was a time where he was sleeping, sat down, like in this position for 9 months. He couldn't sleep laying down. And the doctor was like, you can forget this bodybuilding thing. And he said, well, you don't know who you're talking to. You're talking to C.T. Fletcher.
You must have forgot who I am.
You must have forgotten. And he was the one that said very famously, no, mama. She was like, CT, you can't be the baddest. He says, no, mama. I'm going to be, what did he say? Something along the lines of, someone's got to be the best.
Yeah. That's what it was. That's what it was.
Someone's got to be the best. And mama, I love you, but that's me. You know what I'm saying? And I love that mindset. You know, he is somebody that thrives off of the doubt. And I think a lot of the most successful athletes in the world, you know, Ronaldo was one of them. He says, your love makes me strong, but your hate makes me unstoppable. And I love that, you know, and I believe that to succeed at anything, you need, you know, thick skin. You need rhino skin, as we like to say, right? You know, people's words cannot affect you. Yeah. If someone's words can penetrate you and cause you to not do something, you're weak. You know what I mean? And so you gotta take those words and be like, oh, I can't. I remember one guy told me you can't get 1,000 on YouTube. 1,000 subscribers.
A Thowie.
A Thowie, you know, a little Thowie. And I was like, really?
Thowie.
Really? Yeah. And I was like, okay, watch. You know, and
all right, player.
All right, you know, and the thing is, sometimes they check up on you. These guys.
Yeah.
You know, is he still? Okay, fuck's sake, he's still going. Oh, I haven't. He's not. He's not quit yet.
Probably 2,000 though.
Oh man, I can't do. 3.
Watch me. Watch me.
Watch what's gonna happen.
You see, one of the best things that I've ever watched was the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. Yeah. And I'd advise watching that, but you know, in there you see on full display the killer that he was and what he done to generate doubt. This guy was a doubt generator, even though he was the greatest of all time, and they knew from very early on that he was the problem. How can we solve him? He got so good that nobody doubted him. He had to start making shit up. And I remember there was this rookie. Obviously, you'd have to watch the whole thing to know exactly what happened, but I'll obviously take a bit of it, and maybe there's a Chinese whisper in there because I can't remember the full story. But it was like he wasn't playing particularly well this game. And I think it was against Washington, and they drafted this new kid who they said was going to be the next MJ. And he obviously didn't like that. He's got a big ego anyway. Let alone
a warranted ego.
Warranted, which you know I'm all for. I'm all for people having a little bit of arrogance when it comes to them having earned it. But so the rookie was playing well this game. And outscored Michael Jordan, and they actually played again the next day because somehow the NBA works in a way where different points in the season you play the same team, but you do it in their court and then you do it in your court or whatever. So the next day they were playing again, but Michael after that game went to the media, if I remember right. You know, they had press conferences at the end. So speaking there, he was like. He'd obviously heard people before saying he's the next MJ and all this kind of stuff, and he made something up saying that the kid said this, said this to him, like, or it was like he scored he scored his last shot and turned around and winked at him, something like that, and he said he said he's not scoring a point next game. And if I remember rightly, he didn't score a point. Let's say Michael scored like 22, which is low for him. The rookie scored 0 or something. Michael scored, I think the kid scored 37 in that first game. Michael scored 37 in the second half of the next game. Something like that.
What an animal.
And it's just the way that some people are desperate for that for super fuel, the high yield fuel that doubt is. And I would like, that's why I'm going to start doing more things that garner more doubt.
Exactly. And I think you also need to set such high goals that you doubt yourself as well.
You know, I've done that this year.
You know what I'm saying? Tell the audience.
No, so I mean, I actually didn't, I doubted myself, but not as much as I doubted myself during the run, right? So I decided that I was going to go out there and run 100 miles in one day. Done it in less than 23 hours in the end, and I thought I was actually going to be a bit quicker. I was estimating it to be about 19 to 21 hours, but it turned out to be 22:50. Now, nobody will, I'm sure will jump on me for that or anything, but you know, it was it's something that scared the hell out of me, and I had this smirk on my face where I thought, it's scary, but I'll be able to handle it. Now, to you know, avoid suspense, I got the job done, of course, but I bit off a lot more than I could chew, and felt myself. I was over the edge when it came to quitting. Yeah, genuinely, like it's almost metaphorical in a sense where I was over the edge. Like I was quitting. Yeah, and something just was not letting me. Yeah, so the doubt was the peak that I'd ever seen doubt at, and not only did I not think I was going to do it, I thought I've quit. Yeah, and
what pushed you, man? What was it? What did you tap into?
Right, so it's like I'd spent a lot of time. Now, this is something that we haven't discussed on here, but something that I got from running and that I found so helpful and exciting was being in the dungeons, let's say, dancing with the demons. That's what I like. Now, obviously, there are people who watch this who maybe have heard a bunch of runners or a bunch of extreme people talking about that type of stuff and going, that's a bit cringy or whatever. Hey, mate, it's whatever helps you deal with certain things. But I genuinely saw myself, not as in me physically and fighting this demon in front of me, but I genuinely felt the sort of attack, the full-fledged attack that I was, going into this with, and just picking apart and vanquishing demons, let's say. Yeah. So I'd spent a lot of time during these runs getting stronger and stronger inside mentally. Yeah. So I felt what I feel to be the case when it came to battling through and ending up finishing that is it was damn near impossible for me to quit, because I'd been through so much already. Now, there were certain ties that I had during that run as to why I had to get the job done anyway, such that I had somebody come up to support me the whole way round this journey, a whole 100 miles round. He came in his van, and my boy George, and he, equipped me with everything that I need in terms of like a place to sit down when I needed to, got me drinks and food and everything like that, changes of clothes, we had in the van, so that whenever I needed it, I had that there. So in my head, I was thinking, I'm tied to completing this, because at this point I lived in Scotland, so it was only a few months ago now, and George came all the way up from here, which is a long drive, and supported me the whole way around, and something like that, I have then a commitment and a tie to making sure that I don't let George down in that case. But also there was I announced it on social media, and I
created that pressure.
Yes,
you manufactured it.
Exactly. I do this on purpose. I want to, obviously we're talking about doubt before, I want to, that wasn't necessarily trying to garner the doubt, but it was putting it out there so that I knew that so many people knew about it, that if I didn't get the job done, I was going to look bad. Or at least in my head. Now, there are plenty of people who would, let's say, see me quit at 70 miles and be like, oh mate, don't worry about it, it's 70 miles, that's amazing. I could never do that. So many people could never do that. And there is some logic to that.
But to you, it's most importantly, it's how you feel about how you did.
It's how I feel. So I announced it on social media, and George came up. I said it to a bunch of other people as well that believe in me and are close friends and everything like that. There are people that I run with who had seen me and said, oh mate, you will be able to do it. So I've got the belief from people. And that was certainly a big driving force. I had people calling me as I was going round, and I was saying, I can't do it, I can't. And they were like, yes you can, keep pushing, come on. And their words weren't affecting me. It had gone past the point of no return, really, where I was like, nah, I'm done, yeah. And their words just were not affecting me. Now, subconsciously they may have been, but consciously I was like, shut up, you don't understand what I'm dealing with right now. But it would have helped. It definitely would have helped. But consciously, I was like, "Shut up! You don't understand." And the worst version of me was coming out. The worst version that was like angry, and my anger was a reflection of the doubt that I had about myself and not being able to do it. And I was like,
sometimes you need to tap into those emotions.
You need to.
Ray Lewis says it, didn't he? He says, be pissed off for greatness.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
sometimes you just got to be
says that, yeah.
fucking pissed off at yourself.
And I was mad. When I tell you guys, yeah, I was, unsurprisingly, you can imagine people might cry during 100 miler, yeah. I was trying to. Like, it hurt so much, not physically I was broken, absolutely. Like, there genuinely comes a point where you're not meant to be there, yeah. Like, once you've run enough, it doesn't really matter how much you train, physically you're not meant to be there, yeah. It's like, no, you've gone past every barrier that I tried to stop you. That's what your body's saying to you. Yeah. Like, you went through this wall. I tried to warn you at this point. I got to mile 57 it was, and my body was, I was shaking. It looked like I was kind of having a seizure, yeah, because I'm self-diagnosing here, but I think it was a sugar shock, yeah. I had no sugar in my body at all, and your body kind of, it trembles, yeah. I was shaking everywhere. And then that was mile 57. I'd done another 43 after that, but right there, I took in a load of
just casually
fuel.
43 after that.
Well, no, casual. I wish it was casual, man. Like, I got to mile 57 and felt all right, yeah. But after the next, let's say 6 or 7, which I was still plodding along through, I was in no man's land. I hit the wall big time, and this wall isn't just, it's not plasterboard. You can't just walk through it. You can't just go like, oh, there's a wall there, bang, get through it. It wasn't brick. It was like 10 layers of bricks.
I can't begin to imagine. Yeah.
This wall lasted for about 15 miles, I would say. And I felt tortured. And I said to I remember having because I'm talking to myself a lot during it. I talk to myself quite a lot anyway. I don't know whether you guys do, but talking to myself a lot throughout. And I ended up saying, you have to be nuts.
Out of your goddamn mind.
And I'm saying this to myself because I'm kind of warming up to the idea that I might actually do it, yeah?
Well, what's that one quote we always like to share? There's a certain delusional quality that every successful person has to have. And this was the first. Now, I've had a lot of people say to me, you're crazy for this, and this, yeah? And I'm like, okay, I'll take that. But this time I thought, oh my God. I am crazy.
I might actually be nuts, yeah? Because every alarm bell was ringing. It was honestly, I could create a visual for you in saying that everything was flashing red. Yeah,
I can imagine. Engine warning light,
pulsing. Everything was pulsing super hard, and just warning me, you're gonna really damage yourself. Yeah, and so the miles between, let's say, 64. And I think it was 79 around that, yeah. It was 77, 79. So a 13 to 15 mile section, I was absolutely defeated, and I was ignoring anything that anybody else said, nearly crying. And the main reason why I was actually crying was not because of the physical pain. This is where I was going to go. It wasn't because of the physical pain. It's because I wanted to quit so bad, but I couldn't. And I don't think, like, that's the first time that's ever happened to me. So you guys hearing that may never have experienced that before. Wanting to quit so bad, everything is telling you to mash the ejector seat, yeah, and get out of there, and you're still going. And I was nearly crying, and I say nearly, like I find it really hard to cry. That's the only reason why I did it, yeah. Like, as in, the tear just wouldn't come out. Yeah. But I was like, all right then, I'll do it. I'll do it, yeah. And that's where you kind of get this overwhelming sort of sensation and this shiver. Yeah, it is a shiver where you're like, oh shit, I have to do it. Yeah. And that's really, there's more to it in the sense of, like, I could unpack that more. But by that point, I think I got to about 79, 80, 81, something like that. And I was like, this is getting done. There's no two ways about it now. I'm too close.
I haven't come this far to only come this far.
Exactly. Right? And do you know what? Yeah, I would say that there's a strange point when it comes to anything that's extremely challenging. What I found it to be is the 60 to 70% mark, yeah? Goggins has the 40% rule, right? Where he says, so it's not really tied to that, but Goggins has the 40% thing, so I'm not trying to, like, grab his thing here and go with that. Goggins says most people are only using 40% of their ability, yeah? Truly believe that. And there's a lot of rhyme to that reason. But I think when it comes to the loading bar of what you're completing, a lot of people struggle at 60 to 70%, because the 60 to 70% is kind of like
you're past halfway,
but there's still a long way to go.
There's still a long way to go.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those, it is the summit, the false summit, let's say, where once you get over it, you then find, oh right, there's a lot more to this, and there's a higher peak,
and it's that mental hurdle.
It is the mental hurdle, and that's where I'm saying that 10-layer brick wall. It's kind of like you got to get through that, and then you're like, oh shit, what can't I do? Yeah. So yeah, that 60-70% I think is an important figure to be aware of, is that most people are probably giving up at 60 to 70% of that loading bar. Obviously, when you're loading a game up, it will say, it's got that bar, all the way up to 100%. But when you're through that, you're going through that loading bar, 60 to 70% is where I think a lot of people are like, there's too far to go. Yeah. I know I've come far, but there's too far to go now. But you will find once you get past 70%, or let's just say it does push on a little bit more and you got to go to 80, there's no coming back. Once you're at 80, there is no coming back. You're like, well, I'm way too close now. I've been, like I said, about the whole thing of complaining for 2 or 3 miles. At that point in obviously that run, I was complaining for 20. Yeah, I was complaining for 20, and complain my way all the way from, let's say that 60 to 80 miles. And then after that, I didn't really stop complaining, but I was like, at least I know I'm going to make it now. Because I've done 20 miles complaining, I could do another 20 miles complaining.
Sometimes you just got to keep complaining your way through it,
exactly.
Until you get it done.
Exactly. And again, we're talking about honor here. We're talking about like what you can do because I knew when I felt the feeling of quitting most, I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, the pain of not completing what you set out to do is more painful.
Bro, I said this to someone the other day, right? If I didn't complete it, so this is at the end of June, right? I said, well, I'm not going to do it at any point for the rest of 2023, and then I've got a couple of other big events at the beginning of 2024, like first quarter, third actually. So I'm going to have to wait another year to try this, and the more time you leave,
the less likely you are to do it, and the more doubt is going to build up in your mind. So I was almost, it was almost like preempting this fear that I had. Now I completed that run, and it is something I've never been more scared of anything in my life after I completed it. Now I'm going to end up doing it again next year, another 100 miler next year, and certainly bigger things as time goes on. But at least I know I can do it now. If I didn't do it, the fear would have been even greater. I might have had like a little bit of I might have had to get a little bit jumped up about the fact that I didn't complete it before. Now I'm coming back for revenge and redemption. There might be an element of that, but that's certainly you could use that to your advantage. Yes, maybe I'm not saying that I would have failed it. But it's the fear of the unknown, because you didn't go further. You don't know what's out there.
Exactly, but because Jim Rohn said something like, "Oh, don't say." He said something like, don't say you're not going to work hard today because you'll work even harder tomorrow. He said, that's stupid. Work hard today and work hard tomorrow.
Exactly.
And the way that ties in is sort of like, well, you might say, well, better luck next time to yourself. How about get it done now? Yeah.
Sometimes you got to tell yourself there is no next time.
There is no next time.
It's today.
Like, and some people listening to this might say, well, that's a very extreme mindset. This is why I don't agree with a bunch, people might say, this is why there's a bunch of things that I don't agree with what Goggins says or whatever, because he's a very extreme. By the way, people, I love extreme people. I would say, take advantage of the fact that people are extreme, because they are a caricature of, extreme people are a caricature, as long as you find the right one of what you want to be. So like,
why do we idolize people like
Exactly.
Michael Jordan and Ronaldo and stuff. It's because we are attracted to greatness.
Right, exactly. Like all of you people here, you might say Goggins this or I can't think of many other examples that everybody might know, but you've got guys like Cam Haynes out there, very extreme people.
Yeah.
You got guys like Tate as well, who is a very extreme person, and he's quite Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. But let's not ignore the fact that he's extreme and he's a caricature of a bunch of ideas that you might have that suit who you are. You just don't have to package it in the same way that he does. And as you're saying about Ronaldo, you're saying about MJ, you're saying about Messi and whatever else, these guys, the reason why we love them is because they are so extreme. So people, I love extreme people because it's
Do you know what it is? The way I see
helpful
it,
for me.
I see it as they're not afraid.
They're not afraid,
you know, people's comments.
Yeah.
They're courageous. It's the characteristics that they embody. They say what they mean what they say. You know, they're not like, well, no, actually, no, they say it as it is.
Exactly.
You know,
Whether
somebody
you
like
like it or
Tate
not.
says it as it is.
Yeah.
And look, I know that some people don't like him.
Yeah.
But the one thing you can't knock the guy on is he says what he means and he means what he says.
Right.
Trump is another example.
Exactly. Another extreme person.
I mean, look, you don't have to like him. It's not a question of whether you like him or you
No.
don't like him. It's the fact that he wins so strongly, so bigly. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to do so well, you know? But this is the thing. He is somebody that people admire because a lot of people have the desire to do the same, but they can't bring themselves to do it. You know, maybe they want to speak as confidently as Andrew Tate or as Donald Trump. You know, they want to say something that they believe in, but they're afraid of this whole cancel thing, cancel culture of maybe being told off. Why did you say that? And so they admire how these people just say it.
Do you know what I want to encourage and push right now to people, and maybe you've discussed this before, whether it be on TikTok or YouTube videos or whatever, is really learning to admire. So even in people that you don't like, it's a mature thing to not like somebody but to admire something about them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is where you then develop yourself from being a fan into somebody who's actually using this constructive the constructive points that people use, and even though you don't like them, taking in the certain thing that you do like about them. You know, like there are plenty of people that I don't like, but I'm like, I admire that about this person, and I just think there are so many people who probably watch this, and there will be way more people who aren't watching it who say, oh no, I don't like a single thing this person says. Why? Because I don't like him. He's a dickhead. Yeah. That's not helpful.
No.
There are
you don't learn this way.
Yeah, you don't learn this way. You actually learn a lot more from people. You tend to learn, as long as there's somebody with grit and integrity, even if it's not someone that you like, you learn a lot more from somebody who has, you can learn a lot more from somebody that you don't like. Because they are so outspoken and they're so bold and clear on certain things.
Exactly. It's a sign of intelligence when you're able to pause, analyze somebody, and reflect on their strengths and their weaknesses. And, you know, Jim Rohn said it, don't be a follower. So take on board what you have to say. I've said this in videos before as well. You may disagree with a lot of what I say, which is perfectly fine with me, by the way. It's naive for me to expect that you will agree with everything I say. Now, you might agree with a lot of what I say, in which case, fantastic. You know, Matt is a good friend of mine because we agree on a lot, you know, and so of course, it's a nice feeling when somebody says, I like the way you think, and, you know, we share a lot of common principles and stuff. That's fantastic. However, if somebody says, you know what, I disagree with you there, it's intelligent for you to also not be offended. You know, oh, okay, I wonder why. You know, I like it when someone tells me, you know what, I want to challenge that perspective. And I'm like, oh, out of interest, why? Because, and I'm like, okay, because maybe I've learned something to be a certain way, but maybe there's data to prove me otherwise.
Right.
You know, because a lot of what we know, we've taken on board from somebody else, and sometimes it's fabricated.
Exactly.
You know, sometimes we take on board even the cynicism and the skepticism of our parents, for example, when it comes to going out there and pursuing challenges and starting businesses. And so it's going to take some conscious effort to undo some of those characteristics. And we've spoken about this before. Being open-minded is a skill. It's a skill. It's something you've got to train yourself to be. You know, if you're somebody who's like, you know, for example, this is a bit of a sensitive topic, but some people may perceive Muslims to be violent people, or Islam to be a violent religion.
Certainly.
And that's because
Like that,
they've grown up in an environment that was misinformed or uninformed.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, sometimes you don't know anything and you're afraid of what you don't know, right? And sometimes it's the fact that you've grown up hearing the wrong information.
Yeah.
And so it takes a really mature individual to sit down and be like, you know what? I'm open to feeling uncomfortable right now.
Yes.
You know, because it's not a nice feeling when somebody says, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And if they have a good reason, and sometimes people are just hostile and they'll just want to find disagreements with you when there's no actual good data behind that. And whatever the case may be, even if there is good data or there isn't, it's good to be polite when you have that conversation and to disagree in a gentleman-like manner.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
when it becomes violent or whatever, then you're emotional. You know, then you know you've lost. If you have to resort to violence or to shout as loud as you can, then you've lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's handle it with class and dignity, and go. If we don't agree on it, and then we say,
Then we agree to disagree.
Yeah, and
you know?
and then we still find other things that because you'll almost certainly find with most people that you'll agree on something. You know? So just because you don't agree on this particular thing doesn't mean that it's not going to be on everything, and that's not necessarily to say you should, you know, proper spend time with everybody to find out what it is that you agree on. But as you were talking about, people relying kind of more on morals and ethics and values and whatever else, but you'll find, and that's why we get on very well. But obviously, there are things that we disagree with on each other, and that's important. Like I can say plenty of things that I disagree with a bunch of my friends about, but we get on so well and get past it really easily. Like I know we don't agree on the dairy thing. We don't.
See, I drink dairy. You know, that's fine with me.
I don't have any dairy in my diet because but you no, I am in agreement with you about soy, boys.
Yeah. Oh hell no soy milk.
No soy.
And you know, coconut milk also contains a lot of soy.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh well, I'll be off that then.
Yeah, 100%, man. You know, when I found that out many years ago, I was like, oh, sugar.
Yeah.
You know, there's soy in coconut milk.
You know what I will say though, yeah? I actually don't know how much merit there is to soy being as deadly as has been said, yeah? Not deadly, but obviously
but you know, like negative,
yeah. But it's like, to me, it doesn't really matter whether that's the truth or not. It's more like, I'm fine with that belief.
Do you know what I associate soy with? It doesn't taste
good anyway, so
no, it tastes awful. It tastes like if someone took cardboard and blended it with water. You know, that's what it tastes like. And I don't know, for some reason, I just associate soy milk with estrogen.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Have you heard that one McGregor voice note once? He was like, "Hey, estrogen head." You know, he was mocking that YouTuber. But I don't know. I just visualize. Well, I just think of estrogen. You know,
that's what I do as well.
And you know, there are actually scientific studies to show that, you know, consuming a lot of soy products does promote the growth of estrogen.
Which is why I don't have it. I don't even want to test it.
I don't even want to test it. You don't want to go near it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, it's another topic that we need to address, and it's very important. You can't be a grown man with a pair of tits. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no.
I mean, look, I was somebody who allowed himself to deteriorate last year to get to a point. And
man, you got one of the best transformations, though.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm proud of what I accomplished in the short span of time.
Yeah, that's
honestly,
crazy.
I was going down a very slippery road. I allowed myself to get to 28% body fat, which looking back was absolutely unacceptable. How on earth did I allow myself? And it's what happens when you don't consciously take care of yourself, when you don't prepare, when you don't plan. You know, fail to plan to fail.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't actively monitoring my diet. I wasn't monitoring how many steps I was doing every single day. It got to a point where I was like, hang on a second, there's a lot to grab here. What's going on? And it wasn't firm. It was sagging. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You need to do something about this. And, you know, shout out to Sam. I consulted an expert, and we sat down and we went through my diet and my workout routine. And it's actually crazy when you sit down and you monitor. You know, you know who Holton Buggs is, you know, a successful businessman. He once said that you can't grow what you don't measure. And it's very true. When you don't actively keep track of the data, I mean, you have the smartwatch, so you're able to see what your sort of heart rhythm is and, you know, your resting heart rate and all sorts of stuff. And so that data is important. And so it's the same thing when it comes to your nutrition, your exercise routine. I was guilty of going to the gym for many years, just, cool, you know, this and this.
I did tell you.
He did tell me, to be fair. He did tell me. And I think it got to a point where I posted on my story that I weighed 95 kilograms or something like that. And you called me up on it.
Yeah, I did.
You replied to my story and you said something like, this isn't good or something like that.
Yeah, I said it was something along the lines of, right, it's time to get rid of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, time to do something about that.
He was like, oh, you know what, this motherfucker's getting out of hand right here.
Because I've been seeing it now. Obviously, this is for you guys to consider, for people that you know as well, yeah? Because Ali was posting pictures of him in the gym, and I was looking and I was like, oh man, he's going to the gym, but it's not working.
It's not working.
Because like, well, for one reason or another, but it was obviously consulting somebody who's a professional, who's well trained and versed in this type of stuff, that was able to get you out of it. But, you know, it was almost like Ali wasn't seeing it properly, yeah? And of course there was there may well have been a good amount of muscle there, but I was like, nah, you can't even see it now.
You can't see it.
Because you're, as you said, 28% body fat, which is way too much. Yeah?
Too much.
And guys, like on that note, when it comes to the amount of fat that you carry, it disturbs hormones and stuff as well. You know
everything.
what I mean? It's not even just a case of how you look, and I think people are too lax on this. Yeah, people are too chilled about it. It's not. I'm very serious about that stuff, and I certainly am not a preacher who goes out. I don't like people who preach, so I don't do it myself, like the way that a lot of people do. But if somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, what can I do to improve or whatever, I'm very blunt about stuff like this, yeah, because you are doing a lot more damage to yourself by, let's say, having a certain amount of fat on you than just looking bad. Yeah, it's what it does.
What's going on the inside as well?
What's going on the inside, and again, as I said earlier on, you're really a reflection and a representation of how you treat yourself.
100%.
You know, so
and it all starts with health.
It does, and that's why I have to be real. That's why I was like, right, I'm gonna, you know, because you get some people out there who aren't for that. I remember I've said this story to people before, let's say 2 or 3 people, not like we've gone out there broadcasting everywhere, but and they're like, oh, why would you say that? Yeah, why would you say
why would you hurt his feelings? Yeah,
that might have offended him or whatever. I said, well, first of all,
his mental health.
Yeah. I said, well, first of all, I know him and I know the way that he takes things and everything like that. And second of all, even if it does, some people need that reality. Yeah, good. Yeah, like I don't know about you guys, but I'm the type of person who, when someone says I'm doing something wrong or they bring up something bad about me, I'm very self-conscious in a way where I'm like, I don't want people to feel like that about me. So thank you for pointing it out. And I'm gonna go home, and whilst I'm cooking my dinner, watching the TV or whatever, getting into bed, waiting to go to sleep, I'm gonna be thinking, damn, does everybody else realise that as well? And
it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of wanting to help this person. You know, there's that saying, right? Uncomfortable truths are better than comforting lies. I don't want people to, oh yeah, you're doing great, you know, because it's that motherly love which can often destroy you as a man. There comes a point where you need to look in the mirror and be like, this is unacceptable. What's gone on here? You know, and this is why fathers are so important in the household, because the father offers that context. It offers that reality, that sort of bitter truth. You know, you need to do something about it because this is unacceptable. You know, and sometimes your friends could act in this way for you. They could be like, hang on, man, you're getting out of hand, bro. What's going on? I
mean, it's a very feminine thing to want somebody to lie to make you happy. Yeah. Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies is that song. Yeah. And that's not how we operate. Like we're very logical creatures, and we like to be told. Despite how much it might hurt us, and in the moment we might feel like, oh, that was a little stab right there. We, in the end, do something about it, and we act. Yeah. We act on it when somebody. So we need to be like this with people. Definitely.
100%. Because as a result. And look, I knew I was getting out of hand, but, you know, Matt, you know, obviously bringing it up as well, and even my brother as well, he mentioned that, you know, come on, man, you're getting out of hand here as well. That pushed me to become better. And as a result, I went through this fitness transformation. I lost almost like 17 kilograms in the span of like 3 months.
That's crazy.
And I dropped from 28% body fat to, at my lowest, I was about 10.2% body fat.
That's crazy.
And I remember obviously having conversations with you, and I was like, man, I feel different. You know, everything's changed. I feel enlightened.
More energy.
Energy, yeah, and my testosterone went higher as well, because obviously carrying extra fat lowers your testosterone.
Yeah.
You know, men that are obese have low T, high estrogen.
Yeah.
You know, and so I felt so much better, and I'm so grateful to have people around me that, you know, won't just feed me comforting lies. You know, people that will tell me, "Hey, come on, man, you gotta improve yourself. This is unacceptable."
Yeah.
And obviously, I went through the work myself, so you have to do the work. I mean, it's no good for someone just to say, "Come on, man, get it together," and then you not to do anything with it. There comes a point, and Jim Rohn talks about this actually. There comes a point where you experience disgust. You know,
I was going to say this, yeah.
Disgust.
Yeah.
But as he always says, couple that disgust with action.
Well,
you know, that story of the man who blew his car with a shotgun, destroyed every window, every tire, said, "This is the last time I'm driving this piece of shit. And not only will I never drive it again, nobody else will drive it again."
Yeah.
You know, so it's getting to that point where you've hit rock bottom. And the good news is, if you hit rock bottom, then there's no more else for you to go. You know, you're looking up now. If you can fall on your back, you can get up because you can look up, right? So, you know, sometimes being in rock bottom is the perfect place to start.
Well, you see, this is an important point, actually. I thought about it earlier on. I tend not to advise people on things. There's plenty of things that I'm helpful for if somebody asks for advice, but I tend not to. I'm not a fan of advising people so much, because you find that if somebody hasn't asked for it and they're not willing, they don't do anything with it anyway, and you've just kind of wasted your breath. But to your point, I would say that the advice and information is one of the least important things, yeah? And it's like tertiary. Before that, you've got things that are... The first thing I would say for you to make significant change is disgust. And I like that you brought that up, because for me, the thing that forced me to change was I looked at myself and I was like, you suck. You suck, man. And there was, and that was good. After that, it was the willingness to change, and then after that I needed the information. Yeah. So you find, and you guys might need to hear that as well, because a lot of people do become junkies for information and advice, right? And it's very good, and it feels satisfying. It's almost like what Ali said earlier on about going, and it has the same type of tickle, the way that you might go to your friends and tell them that you're going to do something.
It feels great.
Yeah, because there's a good feeling that you get out of getting it, yeah? Out of telling somebody, "Oh, I thought of this good idea." But it's also, and it's the same feeling that you get from getting advice as well. You're like, "Oh, that's good. That's a nugget that I might use in the future." Yeah. But you will only use it when you are disgusted with yourself. And I just think like that is the breaking point for a lot of people. When you look in the mirror. Now, there are people who should be disgusted with themselves that aren't.
And you can't help those people.
You can't help them. No,
you know, if someone doesn't see the fault that they are committing, if someone doesn't see the destruction they are causing, and you've tried, you know, to make them see, you've put a mirror in front of them like, "Yo, you're destroying yourself," and they're not doing anything about it, then there's nothing you can do. And it's sad, because this person might be your sister, might be your mum, might be a good friend of yours, and you almost have to watch the destruction unfold, and you feel helpless.
That's it.
And some people, they come to you for advice repeatedly and never do anything with it. Arseholes.
See that, arseholes, yeah. See, that's
do you think I should? And then you meet them 6 months later, nothing's changed.
And they kind of ask the same question again in a different way as well.
But if I was to, it's like, well, you've had this conversation with me before.
Yeah, right. You know, you get to, that's what happened to me, is I kind of like heard these conversations, heard people coming to me for all of these questions and situations, and then I was like, I've kind of got a 3 strike rule. Like if I tell somebody once, I'll give a good, like show a good level of care. Yeah. Second time, I'll be like, okay, this, and then the third time, I'll be like, nah, I've already told you. Beat it, cocksucker.
Get out of here. You know?
So you get out of here.
Get out of here.
You know, like that's how it is for me now. Is I'm reluctant to do it, because I've realised that not a lot of people want to change. They just love the feeling of somebody caring, and a lot of people just like attention. Yeah. And obviously, if we're talking about,
that's what it is.
Yeah, and if we're talking about, like, you know, the topic that we were on earlier on about depression and whatever else, you've got to be able to filter out people who just want attention from it as well. And there is no, I haven't got any smart words for you how it's a gut instinct type of thing, really. But what I'd always say is try and help people if they are coming to you with these things.
But sometimes the best help you can offer somebody is not to help them.
Yeah.
You know, we've spoken about this plenty of times before, and you've seen it unfold, you know, in real life because you've known me for so long. You know, my dad used to advise me on how to spend my money wisely. And there was a period in my entrepreneurial career early on in my 20s where I was doing well. I was making good money and I was just reckless, financing this, financing that. And I was behind on my payments. And I said, I'll take care of it because tomorrow more money's coming in. You know, I was almost arrogant. You know, I believed, of course, you know. And as a result, I destroyed myself.
Yeah.
Now, there were occasions where my dad was like, I'll help you out in this instance.
Yeah.
Get it together, son.
Yeah.
You know. And he was obviously visibly very disappointed because he offered me that advice. But I, you know, ignored it, basically. And I kept on destroying myself. And then there came a point where he just stopped helping.
Yeah.
There came a point where he was like, you know what, no.
Well, yeah.
It's your fault.
There
You're
you
a
go.
grown man.
Yeah, live with it.
And then I was like, yo, even my own dad.
Yeah.
You know, because the culture that we come from, you know, it's very normal for the father to do absolutely everything to take care of you. And even if you're a grown man who's made mistakes, you can almost bet that your father will help you out. But then there comes a point, and this is something that I'll definitely do with my children one day as well, if they ever become reckless, is do what my dad did to me. In fact, I'll be more brutal than him because, you know, I want them to grow faster. You know, my dad, bless him, helped me out. But then when he decided not to, I grew as a man because I was like, now I have to face these problems myself. No one's coming to save me.
There you go. That's what I was about to bring up is, you know, I had the same scenario with my mum. She'd helped me out with pretty much everything. And then one day she was just, there wasn't a specific like, no, I'm not helping you. But there was like I feel like I can't ask her anymore. And like I pissed her off so much that I can't. And she's so disappointed. Yeah, exactly. The shame. She's so disappointed in me now that I can't. And I just got to handle this. And then that's where I had that realization as well. That nobody's coming to save me. And that's one of the greatest revelations that you can have. And I'm sure a lot of people have had that on here. And I'm sure you'll have had Ali say that a lot as well.
That's the day you turn from a boy to a man.
That's what it is. That is it. Like when
it's the whole burden of responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I'm responsible for me. You know, your parents, God bless them, they helped you up until the point where you were an adult.
Yeah.
And then from there, they're really not responsible for you.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the fact that they're there, the comfort zone of your parents destroys you. And that's why Jordan Peterson talks about in his book, 12 Rules for Life, of leaving your hometown and, you know, venturing out, because you're not a real man until you can leave the nest.
Right, yeah.
Until you can go. And another one of his rules is live as if your father was dead. You know, free of your father's sort of support and sometimes of his expectations. You know, you got to go out there and become your own man. And so, absolutely, sometimes the lessons that you learn from having no one help you. In fact, I was watching a podcast recently of this guy talking about lending people money. And he talked about his frustration in the past of lending people money and expecting that money to come back. And he said, well, it's never worked.
No.
And he said, well, listen, I'm successful. And of course, if my closest family members are in deep trouble, I may offer some assistance, but it will come from a place of me not expecting anything in return. I'm giving you this money. Don't call me. Don't worry about paying me back.
I heard that as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it.
I think it was, who's the Shark Tank guy? I think it was the Shark Tank guy, actually. Mr. Thing, what do they call him? The main guy in America.
I can't remember, man.
I can't, the name's, I've lost it, yeah. But he said, I'll give the money, but I don't want you to think about paying me back. I've considered this a done deal. Yeah. But I don't want you to ever call me again asking for money. You know? And he only does that with people that are very close to him, of course. Right. Not people that went to high school with him and stuff like that. And I've learned that lesson as well in the past. There was an instance once that this guy, that I knew, that I used to work with, he gave me a sob story and everything, and I later learned that it was a fabricated story. But at the time, out of the kindness of my heart, I was like, and I lent him about £1,200. In fact, I remember.
That's a lot to just lend somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how. I must have felt really generous that day, and I was like, okay, I'll help you out. But that was a lesson for me, because what happened after was he blocked me on everything. And I remember feeling so stupid after that.
Yeah.
But then also, it's almost like I was grateful that I learned this lesson early.
Well, that's the thing. It's a £1,200 lesson in that sense of like, that's not going to cost you that much in the future.
In the long run, no.
You know what I mean? Like even if you spread that out over months, it's £100 a month or whatever, right? Do you know
Exactly,
what I mean? Like,
in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much.
And I like perspective. You know, like that's an important part of maturity as well, is understanding that it's not as bad as not everything is as bad as it seems.
Well, it's like that saying, life happens for you, not to you, right? It's like, things happen to guide you. Things happen to move you to a better direction. And sometimes in the moment when you're really frustrated, you can't see the wisdom behind it, and you need time to gain that perspective, to connect the dots and be like, you know what, that one time, okay, that had to happen so that I did this, and then you start connecting the dots, and that's when you look back and you're like, yeah, I get it now. It all makes sense.
Exactly.
But in the moment you're like, I don't understand what's going on. The frustration's really visible. And so, look, that's just life for you. You're going to go through experiences like that. But, sometimes as much as you want to be smart and learn from other people's mistakes, you're just going to have to make your own. You are. And I know I used this statement earlier on. I think is a really important message as well, is to be your own hero. Like I remember, I think it was the beginning of 2022. I don't really set New Year's resolutions, but it's kind of like something that for whatever reason at that time I just decided, do this. One of them was not to complain, which is certainly hard to like fully live by, but I do a pretty good job at it. And I'm not typically a complainer anyway, but it's kind of like anytime I do, no, remember, don't do that, because complaining really is negative ROI. Yeah, exactly. It's expensive. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that I find expensive. These are expensive things to do. But the other one was be your own hero, and it was more like a drilling it into myself kind of thing. So that's why I went out and done all the stuff that I do, and that's why I decided I'm going to do this stuff so I can count on myself. And because you're kind of looking for somebody to come and save you for a long time, and then instead of even thinking of it as literally just nobody's coming to save me, how about you be your own hero? I like that. Yeah. Like save yourself. Yeah, save yourself. Like it's an enhancement to that term. Nobody's coming to save you. It's an enhancement. Be your own hero. Yeah, to the point where again you're not looking for these outside sources and these, let's say, superstars that are out there and just going to games to watch these guys because you're so inspired by it. I kind of get it. I like a little bit of it where I'll draw a bit of inspiration from someone, but I'm not going to be a fanatic about someone else. Hooligan, yeah. Yeah. It's funny enough you mentioned that, actually, because I have a strong stance against people that are extremely emotional when it comes to watching their sports team play. Yeah. There's one thing being passionate. There's one thing being passionate and wanting to win and wanting your team to win, but then there's being overly emotional about something that you're not benefiting from. It's a bit gay. It is, yeah. I mean, you're like, pass it, and you're like, he should have done. And what's bad is that, I've seen grown men, and I think there were occasions where you were on the train with me heading back from London. You see guys having arguments on the train. In fact, I saw one guy once punch another dude, and these are grown men with probably families, probably, decent jobs and everything, and there they are fighting because some millionaire didn't do what they expected him to do. Yeah, another man. And I've never understood the whole wearing a shirt with another man's name on it behind your back. You should be. In fact, I've always wondered what women thought of this. Yeah. When they see their man with like Beckham, on his back, it's like, well, I get why. Listen, don't get offended, right? This is a podcast, and we're going to joke around. Yeah. But it's like I've always had the number. I mean, to be fair, there was one occasion where I had Ronaldo on the back of my shirt. But then after a while, I was like, I feel kind of dirty, man. It's like, I should be the one that, I should be proud of being my own superstar. Yeah, your own name on the back. My own name on the back. When motherfuckers go to like, JJ, is that even around still? JJB Sport. JJB? Yeah, you remember is it JD? Or is it? You got JD, you don't remember JJB? JJB? Yeah. JJB Sports? Yeah. Well, it's like a shop.
Yeah, you don't remember that?
JJB.
You used to be one at that retail park.
Oh, I don't remember now.
No way.
Not JJB.
But anyway, you used to be able to go there and make your own football shirt.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are plenty of places that you can do that. That's just what I remember. I don't know why that name came to my head. But
An extinct store.
But that was all around the country as well, JJB.
Damn, that's crazy.
But, you know, shout out to the motherfuckers that are putting their own name on the back.
Yeah, exactly, man.
You know
and the thing is, it's like, you know, become your own.
Samson on the back.
Yeah, Samson, you know, Mark, you know. In fact, I don't think I know of a footballer called just Mark, you know. Yeah. There probably is in the Premier League someone with the first name Mark, but yeah, you know.
Shout out to all the Marks.
Shout out to all the Marks, you know.
I know 2 good Marks.
Mark is a good name, you know, for a good man. You know, you can count on a Mark.
Mark's a biblical name, isn't it?
Probably. It sounds like a biblical name, yeah.
It is, or is it?
Mark. In fact, speaking of names, there are names now. In fact, I was actually going to mention this earlier because it came to my mind. Cornelius is a solid name.
One of my boys is called Cornelius, but he doesn't like to be called it.
I don't know why. I'd be repping that name.
It's a sick name.
Cornelius sounds like a Roman emperor.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Cornelius the Third, you know?
Listen, man, you got to embrace your name.
Yeah. Cornelius, come on,
Cornelius
man. That's a solid
is one
name.
of the most gangster names I've ever heard in my life.
Better than Darren, you know? I'm joking. Shout out to all the Darrens. We still appreciate you. But, you know, that's a name that has some power, you know, some power to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to be fair, there are names that are going extinct.
Yeah, like Keith.
Keith. In fact, Darren, I believe, is probably dying off.
I reckon we'll get a bunch more Darrens still.
I don't know, I feel like Darren is an older bloke.
It is.
All right, Darren? You know, I just don't see a baby being called Darren.
I know, that's kind of weird. Ian.
Yeah. Ian. Roger. Do we say Roger?
Roger,
Roger's a solid, you know what I'm saying?
There ain't going to be many Rogers left, is there?
Landscaper Roger, you can count on him, you know?
Roger, you've got...
Oh, man, there's...
What else have you got?
I think the most popular names are Harry, George, those kind of names.
Harry, George, Jack,
I know
James.
In the UK, Mohammed, which rubs off some people the wrong way. You know, our country,
the most popular name in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there are some names that are just, you know, withering away.
My name ain't going anywhere.
Matthew.
Yeah.
Matthew's, it will last the test of time, I think.
It will.
You know, and...
it's biblical, strong.
It's a solid name with some stories behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And one of my favorite. I'm not even into the Bible, to be fair, Christianity, but one of my favorite verses ever is Matthew 13:12. Yeah, and it says something along the lines of, "To he who has will be given more." Yeah, and to he who does not have, what he does have will be taken away. And I think that is one of the most powerful things, and it's really a mindset. If I can attribute it to anything, it's a mindset. It's a level of gratitude and just understanding what you do have. And when you do, you will.
Gratitude is such an important thing. Yeah, even in the Quran, it talks about, you know, God says that if you are grateful, I will give you more.
Yeah,
and you know, obviously Jim Rohn talks a lot about how success is looking for a good place to stay. And what he means by that is the characteristics of a successful person. Do you embody those characteristics? Because if you're somebody who's resentful throughout the process, you know, I was saying this on a coaching call earlier. You know, I was speaking to a guy who's working hard to build a business, and I told him, make sure that you are enthusiastic, you're optimistic, you expect to win, you aim to deliver the best possible service that you can, and that you're not attached to the outcome. When you do things like that, you are attracting success to you. Yeah. If you're like, oh, God, do this again, you know, that resentful energy will guarantee that you don't become successful. Yeah. If I was showing up on YouTube, like, oh, why do I have to speak to you guys again? That kind of energy of I don't want to be here. It's like, you know, when people say, oh, but I only have 2 people watching my videos. It's like, hey, hang on a second, buddy. 2 people are watching your videos.
Yeah.
Be grateful, man. Yeah. Because if you're like, oh, it's only you. Imagine you were on a live. Yeah. Oh, it's only you 2 on here. You know, I can guarantee they'll probably click off. Yeah, I don't want to be here.
Is it? Only you 2. Oh, yeah. I see you then.
You know, I don't want to be here anymore. It's like, you know, it makes people feel like they're not wanted. Yeah. You know, and when people don't feel wanted, they just run away.
It's weird, man. Like there are all of these laws that that have so much strength to them, and like that you just can't deny. Even though people will attribute it to, let's say, like something that's quite mystic and of another plane, another realm in a sense, where like, yeah, but because it's not physical, it's not real. Nah, man, like there are some things that you actually have to think about for it to start to manifest. And I'm not talking, I don't want to go into the whole topic of like law of attraction or anything, but there are loads of laws that you have to abide by, otherwise it just won't come. Laws such as what you just said, like respecting what you do have and appreciating it, like I said in that verse, Matthew 13:12. I don't know why, I don't understand why, but it's not, some things aren't important to understand why, it's just that you have to do it.
100%. I mean, a wise man once said, when you feel good, you do good.
Right.
And a clear example of what you just mentioned as well is how stress is something we can't see.
Exactly.
Stress is an emotion that kills.
Yeah.
Stress is one of the biggest killers in the world.
Yeah.
It changes your whole body chemistry, how you feel, your composition, and it also affects what you do as well.
Yeah,
if you're stressed out and you tell yourself that you're depressed and this and this, and you start going down a dark road and you start self-sabotaging, you start causing problems for yourself. Whereas when you say, you know what, now I'm going to win, I expect to win, I've got all the qualities, all the attributes, of course they're going to do business with me. Of course they're going to watch my videos. I'm the guy. And it doesn't come from a place of arrogance or tearing other people's buildings down to make yours stand the tallest. It comes from a place of, you know what, I want the very best for myself, so I'm going to do everything in my power to support me. I've got me for the rest of my life.
By hook or by crook, that's the way I see it.
Exactly. Come hell or high water.
Hell or high water.
You know what I'm
You're
saying?
going to have a problem trying to stop me.
I mean, I'm going to have to die. For me to not continue anymore. It's that sort of mindset. It's like, I believe in this. We get one shot, and, Jim Rohn used to say that life is both short and long. It's short in the grand scheme of things, 80, 90 years. It's not a long time in the grand scheme of the universe. But when you're in it, every day is pretty long, and
it can drag on.
It can drag on. Exactly. And so, be present in the process. And I think one thing to touch on that's very important is, as you are building yourself, don't forget to enjoy the small things of life, such as the walk around the park, having a chat with your parents, catching up with them, seeing how they're doing, because they're aging as you're aging. You're seeing basically the slow demise of your parents. When you're young, you saw them as these vibrant young adults who had the energy and they were able to run with you and do all sorts of stuff. And then as you become an older man, you realize that they're coming towards the last chapter. And so you change. And I think one person put it on a podcast very well. He said that if you only see your parents twice a year, and let's say they're 70 years old, and let's say the average person dies at 80, let's just say. I mean, 2 times 10, you have 20 more times to spend with your parents before they pass away.
It's almost like every time you see them, they've noticeably aged as well.
Exactly. And
whereas if you see them more regularly, that
you don't notice that.
You don't notice that. Yeah, you're growing with them in a sense, like, or you're aging with them. So there's not much to noticeably see.
Exactly. And I think we put so much stress on ourselves because we want everything to be perfect right now, but we need to find the beauty in the process of figuring things out. When you're a new parent and you're like, yo, how are we going to take care of this baby? Like, I'm a new dad, I don't know what I'm doing. Enjoy that. Enjoy not knowing all the answers. Enjoy understanding your partner more as the years go on. I've spoken to old couples who've said that, I'm still learning about my partner now, and we're 70.
For sure.
And I'm always fascinated by that.
Hey, do you know, like, that just springs a thought to my mind. We're always meant to be learning ourselves. That's hard enough as it is, let alone someone else.
Another human.
A whole other human that's lived the whole life before you met them.
And see, this is the thing. I think we live in a time now where people are fundamentally lazy. They don't want to learn about somebody else. They expect that person to be perfect straight away. You're supposed to be right for me. People throw around phrases such as compatibility. You've got to be compatible. And people rush to say we're not compatible when in fact you're just new to each other.
Yeah.
You know, like if I met you today for the first time, I'll be trying to figure you out. Like, who is this guy? You know?
Do you know, like, speaking of compatibility, a really good, if we can try and be compatible on one thing, it should be willingness to accept different beliefs. Yeah. Because you are going to get so much further with this person. You're going to get so much further with this person if you can just accept that they're different. And there might be some things that really do cross the line, but that's where you can't be sensitive. If it's not something that really crosses the line, then it's something that you should just aim not to be sensitive about, or hope the other person isn't sensitive about. Because as long as you can do that, you can really make something happen. And I think that's if you're talking about compatibility, it's not, do we like the same music? Do we like to go and do the same things? You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, are we rated the same or anything like that? Yeah. It should be, can I get over certain things that I don't like about them?
Yeah,
if you're compatible on that, I don't like a few things about you, you don't like a few things about me.
Can we navigate our way around this in the most loving way?
Yeah.
But that's what it is.
That's the main thing, or maybe the only thing that we should aim to be compatible on.
Going back to what you said about movies and how they've messed us up.
This
is another way that movies have messed us up.
Yeah.
They've given us this distorted perception of what love really is. You know, we fall in love with the fantasy of this perfect person. You know, this individual who just gets us straight away, who never makes us upset. But in reality, you know, life is long. And as I said earlier about, there will be moments where, you know, you will go through severe trauma, and you want to make sure that the person that's right beside you is somebody that's able to provide you with comfort during those times. And so, you know, the person that you're with is somebody that you learn more about as time goes on. And there's a beautiful quote, which I think I've shared with you on a FaceTime recently. Compatibility is an achievement of love, not something that you need from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and
I like
that was like, whoa, that was like a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah, no, that's wicked. And along those same sort of lines is understanding. No, I don't want to say the corny thing of like, let's say this isn't my main point about us not being perfect ourselves, but more so like just let's again enhance that or amplify that to a different level where you're saying I'm a pain in the arse, but somebody's gonna love me still, because everybody's really a pain in the arse in their own way. I mean,
we're all messed up.
I'm fussy when it comes to certain foods and whatever. Like as far as dairy is concerned, let's say I'll eat pretty much anything as long as it's not got that in it. But to some people that's very difficult. And then there are certain ways that I am to do with like the things that I must get done in a day. And then someone will say to me, but you are, can you not just leave it or whatever? No, can't leave it. And they might be like, that's annoying. I don't care, mate. I've got to do it. And I know in so many ways I can be a pain in the arse, and that's something that I think all of us need to recognise. And again, that will make your journey easier as well, because then you can go into things knowing that I'm a pain in the arse, and this is why, and somebody knows what they're getting into that way as well. I'm not saying to reveal all of your cards and be like super like overly honest or anything like that. In this, yes, be honest, but not like overly honest to the point where you scare people off. But like, no, you know, being clear on I don't do this, I don't do that, don't like that, or whatever, and just sort of being like, but I know because of that it makes me difficult, and then you will find that other people will start to open up and adhere
what is
to
the
that
thing?
as well.
I mean, you know, you meet somebody that you're interested in, and you both make it clear. Listen, I'm fucked up. You know, you're probably fucked up in a sense as well. Let's just keep it real. But you know what? I'm willing to work on the things that may upset you. You know, in the same way that I hope you would work on the things that upset me. You know, we're negotiating boundaries here. Now, the way I see it is core values are things not to be negotiated. Because a lot of people today get into relationships having never had that discussion about the core values, and then later on end up splitting apart or divorcing, when that could have been prevented if they would have had that conversation straight away. For example, it could be, do we believe in God? Do we want kids? Do we believe in marriage?
Right.
You know, the conversations that should have been had earlier, some people don't have, you know, until later on. And that's when it causes a problem. But once we've taken care of the core values, everything else, the music taste,
it's more trivial.
It's trivial things that people split too soon because of, when they could have just come to an agreement in a loving way. I mean, look, as a guy, there's certain things that women do that we don't enjoy, right? And there are certain things that we do as guys that women don't enjoy. But sometimes you're going to have to compromise. Sometimes you're going to have to be like, honey, I'll come with you. And not to throw a fit when you do it as well, because that takes away from the fun as well. Exactly. Oh, do I have to? Because then she's going to feel like your mother, like you're a kid throwing a tantrum. You don't want to be there. It's like kids getting ready for school. They throw a tantrum and the mum's like, come on, Dylan, and the mood is ruined. And so, because of your desire to make it work, sometimes you just got to be like, you know what, honey, I know how much you love this music band or whatever. I'm willing to come with you. Let's have a great time. Even though at the back of your mind you're like, I don't really want to go there, but she's my woman and I love her and I care about her. So, I'm gonna make her happy. Now, if all you do is activities that she wants, if all you do is go to the places that she wants to go to, and you never basically do the things that you want to do, she's going to be like, hang on a second, surely there's certain things that you want to do as well, and I don't mind, coming with you. And it comes to a point where if you don't stand up for yourself, and when I mean stand up, I don't mean holding your guard up and trying to dodge punches. Hopefully you're not in a relationship like that. But as in, no, honey, I want to go here this week because I've spoken to my boys about it, or maybe it's like this group is coming here for the first time and I really want to go, and let's say before that, prior to that, you've been to a lot of places that she's gone to. Hopefully there can be a compromise from her side where she's like, you know what, yeah, he has actually come with me to a lot of the places that I like to go to, and it's unfair of me not to join him in this one instance. And I think most guys are fairly reasonable. Now, if what you expect is for her to always abide by what you want and for you to never make compromise, that's unfair. You've got to be reasonable. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about guys who always do what a girl wants and doesn't do anything that they want, that the guy wants, that is, for lack of a better word right now, quite disgusting to women as well, because they think this guy's got nothing else better to do. You know what I mean? And you're not going to get very far with that in the end, because women, not for whatever reason, I think it's quite an obvious reason to be fair, but are very attracted to guys who are sure of themselves, who have a lot going on, and aren't necessarily available all the time. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're available all the time, you get used to each other so quick, and you end up like
the longing goes away.
The longing goes away. You end up vacuuming in all that air of mystery that should remain. That's
necessary to maintain that sexual tension, which it all boils back down to. It all goes back to biology. If you're always there, the longing, the mystery goes away, and we often fantasize about a person when they're not there. Women more so than men. And look, when we say don't be there all the time, it's one of those things that you shouldn't fake. Genuinely be busy.
Don't fake it. Like, get good at being active with the things,
having your own life.
Having your own life.
Because a woman isn't there to complete you.
Well, I mean, this is actually a good point, really, because I think a lot of people don't allow themselves to figure out who they are, because they're constantly jumping from one relationship to another, or have been in a relationship for a long time by themselves, not by themselves, but like with this one person, and haven't figured out who they are, and don't really have their own life. And I just feel like I grew the most when I had time by myself. And I'm actually almost scared of this, because I'm actually addicted to being by myself, because I love that sort of the ability to grow much easier when there's nobody saying anything. Now, not necessarily in a negative sense, but I mean, even in a very positive way, women, you could spend a lot of time around women who make everything comfortable and make you want to be around them.
That comforting motherly energy almost.
Which is positive. It's not a negative energy, but it's like, it's restrictive still. And I've become really obsessed with, and again, I actually think it's a negative thing, being by myself, because of how much things move. But at the same time, that's an extreme a more extreme version of like being by yourself and taking advantage of the opportunities that you do have by yourself to learn who you are and become and develop your own life and become more attractive to somebody that you go on to, you know, speak to and
absolutely
invite into that life.
100%. I think once again, it's you know, you got to get into a relationship once you're content with who you are. You know, you're satisfied with how things are going in your own life. And then a woman can accompany you on your journey to you know, because Jim Rohn used to say it best. He said, I'll take care of me for you as long as you take care of you for me.
Right.
You know, we're coming in to the relationship to give, to share as much as we can. You know, it's not a case of me coming to take. I'm coming into this relationship to offer some of the value that I believe I have, and hopefully you can offer value from your side as well that you have, and together we can thrive in the relationship as well. So absolutely, I believe in that. And you know, get into a relationship when you're ready. If you're not ready, you know, don't rush into it. And look, it's never going to be perfect. You know, life is chaotic in nature. Things will go wrong at the worst possible time. However, you know, you got to be open to the possibility of having a successful relationship. You know, if you're cynical because of a past experience, you'll continue to self-sabotage. You know, learn from the past, but don't live there. You know, and so, look, human beings, we crave companionship. We're creatures that, you know, appreciate being taken care of, and men appreciate being respected, and you know, being we spoke about the whole thing of being useful. You know, we want to feel useful to our partners, and you know, that's something that, you know, you got to be open to getting into a relationship when the time is right. But of course, up until that point, continue to take care of yourself. Don't neglect yourself, and you know, when the time is right, the time is right. You know, and so. Yeah, I mean, we could get into so many different topics here, and I think, you know, we should definitely organize a second follow-up podcast, because there's so many juicy bits of information that we are yet to share. But
well, things can get more specific, can't they? Really, and obviously we've had a good long chat, and this is typically how things go when we have a conversation on the phone and stuff. And obviously now that I'm back down here, it's going to be a bunch of that in person as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I'm looking forward to. And yeah, I'm just thinking like how well this is going to do. I see, obviously it's an amazing setup that you've got in here, and no doubt there are a lot of people that follow you that are very interesting people that will probably jump in this seat at some point and get and help take this to another level. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that, man.
And yeah, man, like it's amazing to see everything at this part of the journey as well. And shout out to all of you guys who tune in and soak up all of the knowledge. Yeah. And obviously you're one of the sharpest, most well-spoken people out there. And I know I see a lot of the comments, and I see that a lot of these people are, you know, like say I don't really listen to anyone else. And they're like, I listen to you and for good reason. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of people, there's certainly some YouTubers that I like, but you're easily one of the ones that are competing with those types of people. So it's only a matter of time until you're blowing up, and obviously it's bubbling basically at the moment.
We're getting warmed up. Like the kettle's not yet at the boiling point, but we're getting there.
That's what we like to see, and I like the attitude like that, because it's. If you're saying right now, oh, this is the explosion, then no, you ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to be. Oh yeah, it's really guys, just the beginning of everything. Absolutely, and it's great to see.
And I'm enjoying the process, and you know, I really appreciate you for joining me here today. And you know, this podcast was, you know, something that I had a great time filming. You know, two friends catching up, having a great conversation, and you know, we've spoken about this so many times. Yeah, there's so much for us to share with people that could really help them out, and I'm sure we've shared a lot today that has provided you guys with a lot of value. So let us know what you think down below. You know, what stood out to you from today's podcast. We covered so many different topics, and we could carry on for days, really.
Do you know what I want these guys to tell us? What names are going extinct?
What names? What names are no longer being named? You know what I'm saying? What names are disappearing?
Yeah. when will the last Roger die?
Yeah, it'll be a sad day once the last Roger goes. I mean, who am I going to call when I need something done? You know what I'm saying, in the house. But
you know,
yeah. But let us know. Comment down below, guys. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time.
Yeah,
Matt,
man.
thank you for coming down. Good sir, fellow good sir. Appreciate it, and we'll definitely repeat this another time.
Hey, you're a good man.
You're a better man than I'll ever be.
No, that's not possible.
Oh man, you're a good man. You're a good sir.
Listen, we're gonna have to disagree to agree, right?
Well, we're going to have to. I mean, we've come to a respectful disagreement. But you know what I'm saying? But I disagree. I disagree.
I disagree. You're the best man I've ever seen. And if I haven't ever seen a good man before, I would know that you are the good
Well,
man.
if I can come close to being how great you are, then I'll be a happy man. So thank you very much, sir.
Love
Ladies
that,
and
man.
gentlemen, like,
Peace.
comment, subscribe. See you